Show me your ID. Maya William had not even looked up when the book was snatched from her hands. The paperback bent in the officer's grip as he held it between two fingers, like it was something dirty. Maya's eyes rose slowly from her empty hands to the man standing in front of her. His sunglasses hid his eyes. His badge caught the morning light. One hand stayed close to his belt. "Well, look at this," he said, glancing at the cover. Sitting out here pretending to be some kind of intellectual, Maya remained still. Around them, Maple Grove Park began to notice. A woman pushing a stroller slowed down. Two older men by the pond turned their heads. A little boy on a scooter stopped with one foot on the ground. Maya looked at the nameplate on the officer's chest. Officer Brent Calloway. She knew the name from internal files. Complaints. Pattern reports. Citizens who had described the same tone, the same aggression, the same habit of turning simple encounters into confrontations. None of those complaints had ever ended his career. They had only been softened, filed, and forgotten. Until now. "Officer," Maya said, her voice calm. "You took my book," Calloway smirked. "Your book? I see people like you all the time. Sit somewhere nice, hold a book, act like you belong, and hope nobody asks questions." Maya extended her hand. "Please return it." He flipped through the pages carelessly, then tossed the book onto the bench beside her coffee. It landed open. The pages bent against the stone. "There," he said. "Now you can stop performing." Calloway stepped closer, blocking her view of the path. "ID," he repeated. Maya looked up at him. "May I ask why?" "Because I told you to. That is not a legal reason." His mouth tightened. "Don't start with that lawyer talk. It was a simple question." "No," he said, pointing at her. "What it is attitude. You people always come out here with attitude, then act surprised when somebody checks you." The woman with the stroller pulled her child closer. One of the older men shifted, uncomfortable, but said nothing. Calloway looked Maya over from her sneakers to her jacket to the book on the bench. "Let me guess," he said. "College girl? Activist? One of those online experts who thinks reading one book makes her smarter than everyone else?" Maya did not answer. "Or maybe you just found that book somewhere and thought it made you look harmless," he added. The insult was childish. The danger was not. Maya understood what he wanted. A raised voice, a sharp movement. One moment he could twist into a report. She kept her hands visible and her voice steady. "Officer Calloway, am I being detained?" His head tilted. "I'm asking the questions. And I'm asking whether I'm free to sit here and read." "You're free to cooperate." "That is not what I asked." His jaw flexed. Maya could have ended it with one sentence. "I am the incoming chief of police." Her official identification was inside her purse, beside her father's old badge. In less than 48 hours, she would be sworn in at City Hall. Senior officials already knew. The public announcement was waiting for the ceremony. But ordinary citizens did not carry titles that could protect them. If Calloway spoke this way to her in daylight, in public, over a book, what had he done when no one was watching? Maya lowered her gaze for half a second. Her phone lay face down beside the coffee cup and the damaged book. With a small, natural movement, she reached toward the bench as if straightening the paperback. Her thumb touched the screen. The live stream opened silently. She angled the phone just enough. Calloway did not notice. He leaned closer. "You know what I think? I think you came here hoping somebody would bother you. I think you people love playing victim, sit in a nice park with a serious book, wait for a cop to ask a basic question, then act oppressed for attention." Maya looked at him fully. "People like me?" He smiled. "You heard me." The first viewers entered the live stream, then more, then dozens. A small red indicator glowed on the screen beside the bent book. Maya spoke clearly, each word measured. "I am sitting on a public bench, reading a book and drinking coffee. I have not disturbed anyone. I have not broken any law. So I'll ask again. Am I being detained?" Calloway's smile disappeared. For a moment, the park went quiet. Then he reached toward his belt. "Stand up." Maya did not move. "Stand up," Officer Brent Calloway repeated. Maya Williams stayed seated on the bench, her hands open and visible on her knees. The phone beside her coffee continued recording, angled toward the space between them. The screen looked harmless from where Calloway stood, just another dark rectangle beside a bent paperback. He had no idea that strangers were already entering the live stream one by one, drawn by the quiet alarm in Maya's voice and the ugliness in his. "Officer," Maya said, "I need you to tell me whether I am being lawfully detained." Calloway gave a short laugh, but there was no humor in it. "You really think you're in charge of this conversation?" "No," Maya said. "I think the law is." That answer landed harder than she expected. His face tightened. The veins at his temple rose slightly beneath the edge of his sunglasses. Around them, the park had changed. The woman with the stroller had stopped near a maple tree, one hand gripping the handle, the other hovering protectively over the child's blanket. The two older men by the pond were no longer pretending to talk. A jogger slowed, removed one earbud, and watched. Nobody stepped in. Not yet. But the silence had weight now. Calloway noticed the eyes on him, and instead of calming him, the attention seemed to feed something bitter. "You people always want to turn everything into a courtroom," he said. "I ask for ID, and suddenly you're quoting rights like you're on television." Maya kept her breathing steady. "I asked a lawful question. You're loitering. I'm reading. You're refusing to identify yourself. You haven't given me a lawful reason." His hand moved closer to his belt. "The reason is suspicious behavior." Maya looked down briefly at the book he had thrown onto the bench, then back to him. "Reading a book is suspicious?" Calloway leaned in. "Sitting here like you're making some kind of statement is suspicious." That was when the first comment appeared on the live stream. "Is this real?" Then another. "Why is he talking to her like that?" Then another. "Someone record this." Maya could not look at the screen without alerting him, but she saw the red glow from the corner of her eye. The number was climbing, slowly at first, then faster. Calloway took a step to his left, trying to block her from the people watching. "Where do you live?" Maya did not answer immediately. He snapped his fingers in front of her face. "Hey, I asked you a question. My address is not relevant unless I'm suspected of a specific crime." "Oh, so now you're a lawyer too?" "No." "What are you then?" Maya looked at him. "A citizen sitting in a public park." He scoffed. "That's cute." The insult was small, but the tone behind it was not. It was the tone of a man used to turning ordinary people into suspects with nothing more than his mood. Maya had heard it in complaint videos, in shaky phone recordings, in interviews with mothers whose sons had come home humiliated. She had read transcripts where officers used polite words on paper to hide cruel voices in real life. And now that voice was aimed at her. Calloway's gaze dropped to her purse beside the bench. "Open the bag." "No." His head jerked back. "Excuse me?" "No," Maya repeated. "You do not have my consent to search my purse." He smiled slowly. "You hiding something?" "I'm protecting my rights." "Same thing most of the time." A murmur moved through the people nearby. The older man with the navy cap stepped forward half a pace, then stopped when Calloway turned his head toward him. "Keep walking," Calloway barked. The man lifted both hands. "Just watching, officer. Then watch from over there." The old man hesitated. He looked at Maya. There was apology in his eyes, the helpless kind older Americans knew too well. The look of someone who had seen enough trouble in life to recognize when courage might come with a price. Then he stepped back, but he did not leave. Maya appreciated that more than he knew. Her phone buzzed softly against the bench. The live stream was spreading. Someone must have shared it. The viewer count jumped. Comments rolled too fast to read from the corner of her eye. Calloway heard the vibration and glanced down. "That your phone?" Maya said nothing. His eyes narrowed behind the sunglasses. "Are you recording me?" Maya's voice remained calm. "This is a public place." "That's not what I asked." "It answers the question." His face darkened. He looked toward the phone, then toward the people gathering farther along the path. He was beginning to understand that the encounter was no longer private, and the knowledge made him more dangerous, not less. "You think recording changes anything?" he asked. "People see a little clip online and think they know the whole story. They know what they hear." "What they hear," he said, pointing at her, "is a woman refusing lawful instructions. What they hear is an officer unable to explain what law I broke." Calloway stepped closer until his shadow covered her knees. "Stand up." Maya did not rise. "Am I under arrest?" "You will be if you keep pushing me." "For what charge?" "Obstruction." "Obstructing what?" His mouth opened, then shut. For a fraction of a second, he had no answer. That gap was small, but to Maya, it was everything. It was the space where truth lived before authority tried to bury it. A woman's voice called from the path. "Officer, she's just sitting there." Calloway spun around. "Ma'am, stay out of this." The woman with the stroller flinched but did not move away. "I saw the whole thing. She didn't do anything." I said, "Stay out of it." Maya turned her head slightly. "Ma'am, please don't put yourself in danger." The woman's eyes filled with anger and fear. "This isn't right." "No," Maya said softly. "It isn't." Calloway looked back at Maya. "You enjoying this? Got your little audience now?" "I didn't create this situation." "You people never do, right?" he said. "Always innocent, always misunderstood, always got some excuse." The words hung in the air. For the first time, Maya saw a few people physically react. The jogger's face tightened. One of the older men shook his head. The grandfather pulled the little boy closer, covering the child's ears too late. Maya let the silence hold the insult. Then she spoke, carefully and clearly. For the phone, for the witnesses, and for every person who had ever stood alone in front of a uniform and wondered whether the truth would matter. "My name is Maya William. I am not resisting. I am not threatening you. I am asking why a police officer is demanding identification from a citizen who is sitting in a public park reading a book. If Maya's courage touched your heart, please hit the like button to show that you stand with people who refuse to be silenced. Leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, your city, your state, or even just your neighborhood, because you never know. Someone close to you may be watching this very same story right now, feeling the same hope, the same anger, and the same belief that justice still matters." Calloway laughed again, but now it sounded forced. "Maya William," he repeated mockingly. "That's supposed to mean something to me?" "Not yet," she said. His smile faded. The phone buzzed again, this time louder. Calloway's eyes snapped toward it. "Pick it up," he ordered. "No." "Turn it off." "No." His hand shot toward the phone, but Maya moved first. Not quickly enough to look aggressive, just enough to place her palm over it. Calloway froze. The park froze with him. "Move your hand," he said. "I am not giving you permission to take my property. You don't get to decide what I take during an investigation." "What investigation?" His jaw clenched so hard the muscles jumped. That was when his own radio crackled. "Unit 12, status check." Calloway did not answer. The dispatcher repeated, "Unit 12. Confirm your location." He reached for the radio on his shoulder, eyes still fixed on Maya. "Unit 12. I'm out at Maple Grove Park with a non-compliant subject." Maya spoke just loud enough for the phone to catch it. "I am compliant. I am seated. My hands are visible." Calloway glared at her. "Subject is escalating." The lie came easily, too easily. The viewer count surged. A young man near the path lifted his own phone now. Then another person did the same. The scene was multiplying. No longer dependent on Maya's single camera, Calloway saw them and finally understood that he was losing control of the story. That was the moment fear entered his face. Not guilt, not regret. Fear. He took one step back, then pointed at Maya as if the gesture could restore his authority. "Last chance. Stand up, show me ID, and turn that phone off." Maya held his stare. "No." The word was quiet, but it carried. Calloway's face twisted. "Fine." He reached toward her purse. Maya's body went still. "Do not touch my bag," she said, but his hand was already moving. Calloway's fingers closed around the strap of Maya's purse. The movement was small, but every person watching understood what it meant. He was crossing a line he had been warned not to cross. He knew it. Maya knew it. The people in the park knew it. And somewhere beyond the trees and sidewalks of Maple Grove Park, hundreds of strangers on a live stream were beginning to know it too. "Officer Calloway," Maya said, her voice steady, "I do not consent to a search of my property." He gave the strap a hard tug. But Maya kept one hand resting on the purse. She did not pull back. She did not fight him. She simply held it in place, forcing the truth of the moment to remain visible. "You don't consent?" he said, almost laughing. "You think I care what you consent to?" The woman with the stroller whispered, "Oh my God." One of the older men said, "This is too much." Calloway turned his head toward them. "Back up, all of you." Nobody moved very far. They shifted, but stayed close enough to see, close enough to hear, close enough to remember. Maya looked directly at the phone on the bench. She could see the small red glow. The number beside it had climbed too high to ignore. It was no longer a handful of viewers. It was thousands. The comments flashed so quickly they became a river of white lines moving up the screen. Is this Maple Grove? That's Officer Calloway. Share this now. She's so calm. Somebody call the department. Calloway followed her glance. His eyes dropped to the phone, then sharpened. You are recording, he said. I told you this is a public place. His face changed. The arrogance did not disappear, but panic began to press against it from underneath. Turn it off. No. Turn it off now. No, officer. He leaned closer, lowering his voice into something uglier. You think that little phone is going to save you? Maya did not blink. No, I think it is going to tell the truth. For the first time, Calloway seemed unsure what to do with her. He was used to fear. He knew how to handle fear. Fear cried. Fear argued. Fear reached too quickly. Fear gave him something he could write down later. But Maya's calm gave him nothing. Her stillness turned his aggression into the only loud thing in the park. His radio crackled again. Unit 12, dispatch. We're receiving calls regarding your location. Confirm status. Calloway grabbed the radio with his free hand. I said I'm dealing with a non-compliant subject. There was a pause, then dispatch came back, slower this time. Unit 12, be advised. Supervisor is requesting you disengage and wait for backup. The words landed hard. Maya saw it in his jaw. The park heard it too. Supervisor? The old man in the navy cap muttered. Calloway pressed the radio button. Negative. I have an active situation. Maya spoke clearly, her voice directed toward the phone. There is no active situation. I am seated on a public bench. Officer Calloway took my book from my hands, demanded identification without stating a crime, and is now attempting to take my purse after I refused consent. Shut up, Calloway snapped. The word cracked through the park. Maya stayed still. That was Officer Calloway telling me to shut up. The live stream exploded. Comments flooded in faster. Did he just say shut up? Call his chief. This needs to go national. Who is she? Something about the last comment struck Maya. Who is she? They did not know. Most of them still saw what Calloway saw, at least on the surface. A black woman on a bench, cornered by a uniform. That was enough. That should have been enough. Her title should not have mattered. But it would, not because it made the violation worse, because it would reveal how careless and comfortable he had become. Calloway released the purse strap and pointed at the phone. You're going to turn that thing off, or I'm going to place you under arrest. For what? Interfering with an investigation. What investigation? He stepped closer. You keep asking that like it helps you. It does. No, he said. It makes you look guilty. Maya looked at the people nearby. Does anyone here feel threatened by me? The woman with the stroller answered first. No. The Navy veteran said, no, ma'am. A jogger lifted his phone higher. She's just been sitting there. Calloway spun toward him. Put that phone away. The jogger did not lower it. He looked about 25, nervous but stubborn. It's a public park. Calloway took one step in his direction. You want to be next? Maya's voice cut in, calm and firm. Officer, do not threaten witnesses. He turned back to her slowly. Witnesses? Yes. You really think you're running this scene? No, Maya said. I think you are losing control of it. That sentence struck something deep. His face reddened. His hand went to his belt again, not drawing anything, but touching the equipment there like a man reminding himself of all the tools he still had. Maya saw the movement and raised her hands slightly, palms open. I am not resisting, she said. My hands are visible. The simple sentence carried through the live stream, through the park, through every phone now pointed at them. It was not dramatic. It was not loud. That made it more powerful. Calloway knew it. He looked at the phones, one on the bench, two in the crowd, maybe more. What had begun as his performance had become evidence. His own phone rang, not his radio, his personal phone. The sound startled him. It buzzed against the front pocket of his uniform, sharp and insistent. He ignored it at first. It stopped, then started again, almost immediately. The second ring made him curse under his breath. Maya watched him pull the phone out. He glanced at the screen, and the color in his face changed. He knew the number. For a moment, he tried to stand straighter. He turned away from Maya slightly, as if that could make the call private. "Calloway," he answered. Maya could not hear the voice on the other end clearly, but she heard the force of it. A hard, angry burst of sound came through the phone speaker. Calloway's shoulders stiffened. "No, sir," he said quickly. "I'm at Maple Grove. I have a subject refusing to identify herself." Another burst of sound. Calloway looked at Maya. This time, he did not look at her with contempt. He looked at her as if she had become a door he had opened without knowing what was behind it. "Sir, I don't know what you've been told, but she's being difficult," he said. The voice on the phone rose. Even the people closest to him could hear a few words now. "Livestream, city manager, shut it down." Calloway swallowed. "Yes, sir, I understand there's a video, but she's refusing lawful." He stopped. Whatever the man on the other end said next drained the last bit of confidence from his face. Maya sat quietly, hands open, watching the exact moment arrogance began turning into fear. Calloway lowered the phone a little and stared at her. "Who are you?" he asked. Maya did not answer. His breathing changed. He looked at the phone on the bench, then at the book, then at the purse. The live stream count continued climbing. The viewers were no longer just strangers stumbling into drama. People were tagging reporters, local activists, former officers, city officials. The story was beginning to move faster than anyone in the park could fully understand. Calloway brought the phone back to his ear. "No, Chief, I didn't know. Nobody told me anything about..." He stopped again. The word chief hung in the air. A few people heard it. Maya saw recognition pass across the jogger's face. The woman with the stroller looked from Calloway to Maya, confused. Calloway ended the call without saying goodbye. For a second, he stood completely still. Then he turned on Maya with a new kind of desperation. "Turn it off," he said. Maya did not move. "Turn off the live stream." "No." His voice cracked. "I said turn it off. And I said no. This is an official police matter." "No," Maya said. "This is a public record of your conduct." Calloway looked around. The crowd was larger now. People had come from the walking path, from the parking lot, from across the street. Some held phones. Others simply stared. Nobody was smiling. Nobody was entertained. This was not spectacle anymore. It was judgment. His fear sharpened into anger. "You think you're clever?" he said. "You set me up? I was reading a book. You knew who I was. I knew your name from your badge. You knew this would happen." Maya's eyes hardened for the first time. "No, Officer Calloway, you made this happen." That was the line he could not bear. His hand shot toward the bench. Maya reached for the phone, but he was faster this time. He did not grab the phone. He grabbed the purse instead, yanking it hard from the bench as if taking something from her would give him back control. The strap tore against the stone edge. The coffee cup tipped over. Dark coffee spilled across the bench and onto the open book. The crowd gasped. Maya stood then, slowly, hands still open. "Do not search that bag." Calloway clutched the purse like evidence, though everyone had seen him create the excuse himself. "You want to play games?" he said, breathing hard. "Let's see what you're hiding." And as he pulled at the zipper, Maya's phone continued streaming from the bench, capturing his face, his hands, the ruined book, and the first terrible seconds of a mistake he could never undo. The zipper stuck halfway. For one brief second, Officer Brent Calloway wrestled with the purse like a man fighting the last locked door between himself and safety. His hands were clumsy now, not because the zipper was difficult, but because fear had entered his fingers. He could feel the eyes on him. The phones raised around him. The live stream still running from the bench. He knew he had already gone too far, but pride kept pushing him forward like a hand against his back. Maya Williams stood a few feet away, calm but no longer seated. Her posture had changed. She was not resisting, she was not threatening. But she was no longer merely a woman on a bench. There was authority in the way she stood, a quiet steadiness that made several people in the crowd look at her differently. "Officer Calloway," she said, "I am telling you again, you do not have consent to search my bag." He jerked the zipper open. "Consent doesn't matter when I have reasonable suspicion. What crime do you suspect me of committing?" He shoved one hand inside the purse. "We'll find out." The answer was so nakedly wrong that even the bystanders seemed to understand it. A low murmur passed through the crowd. The woman with the stroller shook her head. The Navy veteran took off his cap and held it against his chest, as if he were watching something shameful happen at a funeral. Calloway pulled out a wallet, a small notebook, a pack of tissues, and a folded pair of reading glasses. He dropped them onto the bench one by one. The notebook slid through the spilled coffee. The reading glasses bounced and landed near the damaged book. Maya watched without reaching for anything. "You carry a lot for somebody just reading," he muttered. Maya's voice stayed level. "Most women carry a purse, officer." He looked up sharply. "Don't get smart. I'm answering your statement." "No, you're performing again," he snapped. "That's all this is. A performance. Sit in a nice park with your little book, get your little camera going, make me look bad, and then cry racism when somebody does his job. You are making yourself look bad." His mouth tightened. "You people love that word, don't you?" "What word?" "Racism," he said, spitting it out like something bitter. "Anytime someone asks you a question, that's where you run. Can't be suspicious, can't be wrong, can't be told what to do. No, it's always racism." The crowd went quiet again, but it was not the silence of fear this time. It was the silence of people hearing something they could not pretend was misunderstood. Maya looked directly at him. "I have not used that word once." Calloway froze for half a second. She was right. That made him angrier. "You didn't have to," he said. "It's written all over your face." "My face?" "That look," he said, pointing at her. "That superior look, like you think you're better than me because you know a few legal phrases." Maya took a slow breath. The phone on the bench continued to capture everything. She knew by now that the live stream had moved beyond her control. The story had left the park. It was in living rooms, offices, patrol stations, church group chats, local news inboxes, and the hands of people who understood exactly what they were seeing. Still, she did not look at the screen. Calloway dug deeper into the purse. "Careful," Maya said. He laughed. "Now you're worried. There are official documents in there." That stopped him. His eyes lifted. "Official documents?" "Yes." "What kind of official documents?" Maya did not answer. For the first time, Calloway looked uncertain. His phone call from the chief had shaken him. The word, "city manager," still echoed somewhere in his head. The way his superior's voice had cracked through the speaker was not normal. Chiefs did not call patrol officers during minor park encounters unless the ground had already opened beneath someone's feet. He glanced toward her phone. The red glow still shone beside the coffee-stained book. "Turn that off," he said again, but his voice was weaker now. "No." His grip tightened around the purse. "You think saying no to a police officer makes you brave?" "No," Maya said. "I think saying no to unlawful orders makes me a citizen." A few people murmured approval. Someone in the crowd said, "That's right." Calloway snapped his head toward them. "Who said that?" Nobody answered. That made him feel surrounded. In truth, the crowd was not threatening him. No one had touched him. No one had blocked him. But men like Calloway often mistook accountability for attack. The moment people stopped being afraid, he felt endangered. His hand found something hard inside the purse. He pulled it out. For a second, it was only a black leather case in his hand. He frowned at it, as if annoyed that it was not something he could use against her. Then the case slipped slightly, loosened by his sweaty fingers, and fell open. A badge flashed in the sun. Not her father's old badge. Not the ceremonial keepsake wrapped in cloth. This one was new, polished, and unmistakable. It hit the edge of the bench, bounced once, and landed on the pavement between them. The sound was small. The effect was not. The entire park seemed to inhale at once. Calloway looked down. The badge lay face up on the concrete, gold and bright against the gray path. Beside it, an identification card had slid halfway from the leather holder. Maya William, incoming chief of police. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Calloway's face changed in stages. First confusion, then disbelief, then recognition, then something close to physical illness. His skin lost color beneath the morning sun. His mouth opened, but no words came out. The woman with the stroller whispered, "Oh Lord." The Navy veteran lowered his cap slowly. "Well, I'll be damned." Maya did not bend to pick up the badge. She let it remain there, visible to the crowd and to the phone still streaming from the bench. Calloway stared at the words on the ID, as if they might rearrange themselves into something less fatal. Incoming Chief of Police. He looked up at Maya. "You're—" His voice broke. He cleared his throat. "You're Maya William?" She held his gaze. "I told you my name." "No," he said quickly, almost stumbling over the word. "No, nobody told me. I didn't know you were. I mean, I wasn't informed that I was important." He flinched. Maya's voice remained controlled, but there was steel beneath it now. "Is that what would have changed your behavior? Officer Calloway? My title?" He swallowed. Behind him, phones remained raised. People were no longer just recording a confrontation. They were recording the exact moment a man understood that he had shown his true self to the one person with the authority to make it matter. Calloway bent down too fast, reaching for the badge. "Let me get that for you. Don't touch it." He froze. The command was not loud, but it carried the full weight of rank. Not shouted. Not performed. Simply spoken by someone who did not need to prove authority, because she already had it. Calloway straightened slowly. Maya stepped forward and picked up the badge herself. She wiped a trace of dust from the edge with her thumb, then placed it back into the leather case. Her hands were steady. Calloway watched them like a condemned man watching a judge sign the order. His radio crackled again. "Unit 12, stand by for supervisor arrival. Sergeant Daniels is en route. Chief's office advises you are to disengage immediately." The words came through clear enough for everyone nearby to hear. A ripple moved through the crowd. Calloway grabbed his shoulder mic. "Dispatch, I can explain. This is being taken out of context." Maya looked at him. "You took my book from my hands. You insulted me. You demanded ID without articulating a crime. You attempted to take my phone. You searched my purse without consent. Then you found out who I was, and suddenly you wanted context." His lips trembled with the beginning of a defense. "Ma'am, I was conducting a lawful inquiry. Do not call unlawful conduct an inquiry." The sentence struck him silent. For a moment, Calloway seemed smaller than he had been when he first approached the bench. The badge on his chest was still there. The gun was still on his hip. The uniform still carried its stitched name and department patch. But the power had leaked out of him because the fear beneath it had been exposed. Maya turned slightly toward the phone on the bench. The viewer count had become a number too large to absorb. Comments flooded upward in a blur. "That's the new chief? He's done. This is why reform matters." She picked up the phone but did not end the stream. She held it at chest level now, making no effort to hide it. "My name is Maya William," she said to the viewers, to the witnesses, and to the city that would soon be under her command. "I am safe. I am not injured. I want everyone watching to remain calm and let the process work. But I also want this city to understand something. What happened here was not a misunderstanding. It was not poor communication. It was a choice." Calloway stared at the ground. Maya continued, her voice quiet enough to be human and firm enough to be remembered. "A badge does not give anyone the right to humiliate a citizen. It does not give anyone the right to turn prejudice into suspicion or suspicion into force. This will be reviewed. Fully." The word fully landed like a verdict. In the distance, another siren approached, low at first, then rising. Calloway heard it. So did everyone else. He looked toward the street and saw 2 patrol cars turning into the park entrance, lights flashing but sirens fading. His supervisor was arriving. The department was arriving. The consequences were arriving. Maya placed her damaged book, wet notebook, wallet, and reading glasses back into her purse with slow care. Then she looked at Calloway one last time. "You wanted my ID," she said. "Now you have it." Calloway opened his mouth, but there was nothing left that could help him. Behind him, the first patrol car door opened. The first patrol car door opened, and Sergeant Linda Daniels stepped out before the vehicle had fully settled against the curb. She was in her late 50s, with silver at her temples and the kind of face that had spent 3 decades learning how to stay calm when everyone else had lost their sense. She took one look at the scene, then another at the phone in Maya's hand. The crowd gathered along the path, and Officer Brent Calloway standing stiff and pale beside the bench. Her expression changed only slightly. "That was enough." "Calloway," she said. He straightened too quickly. "Sergeant, I can explain. I didn't ask for an explanation. A second patrol car stopped behind hers. Two officers stepped out. Younger, uncertain, eyes moving between Calloway and Maya as they realized who was standing there. One of them, Officer Ramirez, looked at the badge case in Maya's hand and swallowed. "Chief William," Sergeant Daniels said, turning toward Maya. Her voice softened with respect. "Are you all right?" Maya held the phone steady. The live stream was still running. "I'm not injured. That is not what I asked." For the first time since the encounter began, something almost like sadness moved across Maya's face. She looked at the ruined book on the bench, at the coffee spreading dark across the stone, at the citizens still watching with anger and disbelief. "No," Maya said. "I am not all right, but I am under control." Daniels nodded once. She understood the difference. Calloway raised both hands slightly. "Sergeant." She refused to identify herself. "I was doing my job. There were complaints in the area, and I had reasonable suspicion." Maya turned the phone slightly so it captured him clearly. Daniels noticed. So did Calloway. His voice dropped. "Can we maybe not do this on camera?" Maya's eyes stayed on him. "You were comfortable doing everything else on camera when you thought I was nobody." The words landed so cleanly that no one in the crowd needed to react. Their silence did it for them. Daniels looked at Calloway. "Did you take her book from her hands?" He hesitated. "I moved an item for officer safety." "Did you have a reason to believe the book was a weapon?" His mouth tightened. "No, but did you search her purse?" "I conducted a protective check. After she refused consent, she was being non-compliant." Daniel's voice hardened. "Answer the question." Calloway looked away. "Yes." The livestream comments were moving too fast for Maya to read now. But she saw the viewer count climbing in a way that felt unreal. What had started as a few strangers had become a citywide alarm, then a statewide one. Somewhere, phones were buzzing at kitchen tables, church offices, barber shops, police headquarters, local newsrooms, and city hall. Daniels turned toward the younger officers. "Ramirez, secure Officer Calloway's body camera footage. Lewis, get names from witnesses. Nobody is to intimidate anyone recording. Is that clear?" "Yes, Sergeant," they said almost together. Calloway's head snapped up. "Secure my body cam?" "Sergeant, come on." Daniels faced him fully. "Do not make this worse. It's already worse because everyone's treating me like I'm guilty before I've even written a report." Maya spoke quietly. "You were writing the report in real time with your mouth." Daniels glanced at Maya, then back to Calloway. "Badge and duty weapon." The crowd went still. Calloway blinked. "What?" "Badge and duty weapon. Now." "Sergeant, you can't be serious." "I am very serious. This is politics," he said, his voice rising. "That's what this is. She's the new chief, so now everyone's scared. If she was just some woman on a bench, nobody would care." Maya's expression did not change. But the sentence cut deeper than he knew. Daniels stepped closer to him. "That is exactly the problem, Brent." He stared at her. "You just said the quiet part out loud," Daniels continued. "You admitted your behavior would only matter if the citizen had status." Calloway's face flickered with regret, but not the moral kind, the tactical kind, the regret of a man realizing he had spoken in front of too many witnesses. The phone in Maya's hand vibrated again. Then again. Messages were coming in faster than she could process. City Manager Laura Bennett. The mayor. Unknown numbers. Reporters. Community leaders. Her mother. She did not answer. Not yet. The live stream had become something larger than her. Ending it too soon would look like concealment. Letting it run too long would turn discipline into spectacle. Maya weighed both truths in silence. Sergeant Daniels held out her hand. Calloway looked at it as if she had asked him to remove his skin. "Sergeant," he said, quieter now, "please don't do this out here. You should have thought about where you were standing when you chose to humiliate a citizen out here." His lips parted, but nothing useful came out. Slowly, with stiff fingers, he unclipped his holster. Daniels took the weapon carefully, cleared it with practiced hands, and passed it to Officer Ramirez. Then Calloway removed the badge from his chest. For a moment he held it in his palm, staring at the metal as if it might defend him. It did not. Daniels took it. A sound moved through the crowd, not cheering, not celebration, but release. People had seen men in uniform protected too many times. They had learned not to trust the first sign of accountability. Still, something about watching the badge leave Calloway's chest made the air shift. Calloway looked smaller without it. "You are relieved of duty pending administrative review," Daniels said. "You will leave the scene with Officer Lewis. You will not speak to witnesses. You will not contact Chief William. You will not make any public statement without authorization from the department." "She isn't chief yet," he muttered. Maya heard it. So did Daniels. The sergeant's eyes narrowed. "Say that again." Calloway said nothing. Maya stepped forward slightly. "Sergeant Daniels." "Yes, ma'am?" Maya looked at the crowd, then at the phone in her hand. "Please make sure Officer Calloway is treated according to policy. No shortcuts. No public humiliation beyond what his own conduct created." Calloway looked at her then, surprised. Maya did not look back with sympathy. She looked back with standards. "That is the difference between accountability and revenge," she said. The sentence was quiet, but several people nearby nodded. The Navy veteran wiped at one eye with the back of his hand, embarrassed by his own emotion. The woman with the stroller whispered, "Amen." Sergeant Daniels gave a small nod. "Understood." Maya turned the phone toward herself. For the first time, the live stream saw her face up close, composed, tired, dignified, and carrying the weight of what had just happened. "My name is Maya William," she said. "Many of you now know that I am scheduled to be sworn in as Chief of Police. But I want to be clear. This incident matters not because of who I am. It matters because of who any citizen is supposed to be in this country. A person sitting peacefully in a public park should not have to prove they belong. A person reading a book should not be treated like a threat. And a badge should never be used to turn prejudice into power." She paused. The park was silent around her. "This live stream will be preserved. Witnesses will be contacted. Officer Calloway's conduct will be reviewed through the proper process. I am asking everyone watching not to harass his family, not to threaten anyone, and not to answer wrongdoing with wrongdoing. Justice does not need cruelty to be strong." Her voice almost broke on the last sentence, but it held. Then she ended the live stream. For a moment after the screen went dark, nobody moved. The world had been watching, and then suddenly it was just the park again. The fountain, the trees, the spilled coffee, the bent book, the officer without his badge standing beside a sergeant who would not save him. Maya lowered the phone. Calloway was escorted toward the patrol car by Officer Lewis. As he passed, he looked at Maya once, his face full of fear, anger, and something close to disbelief. He seemed unable to accept that 5 minutes could undo years of getting away with things. But 5 minutes, Maya knew, could reveal what 20 years had hidden. Her phone began ringing immediately. "City Manager Bennett." Maya answered. Laura's voice came through breathless. "Maya, tell me you're safe." "I'm safe. It's everywhere. The mayor's office is getting calls. The governor's staff just asked for confirmation. Every local station is running clips. We need to get you inside somewhere secure." Maya looked at the bench. Her father's book lay wet and bent beside the coffee stain. "In a minute," she said. "Maya, this is moving fast." "I know. No, I mean fast. The department's phones are overloaded. People are demanding Calloway's termination. Reporters are already outside City Hall." Maya closed her eyes briefly. The storm had arrived earlier than scheduled. When she opened them, she saw the little boy with the scooter standing near his grandfather. He looked frightened, but curious. His grandfather kept a protective hand on his shoulder. Maya walked to the bench and picked up the book. The pages were stained, but not destroyed. She pressed them gently closed. Laura was still talking. "Maya, I'm here. What do you want us to say?" Maya looked toward the patrol car where Calloway sat in the back seat, no longer in control of the scene he had created. "Say the truth," she said. "Say the department is under review before I even take the oath." Laura was quiet for a second. "That's going to shake the whole city." Maya tucked the damaged book under her arm. "Good," she said. "Some things need to be shaken before they can be rebuilt." By the time Maya William left Maple Grove Park, the city had already split into two versions of itself. One version was still physical. Traffic lights blinking red at downtown intersections, school buses crawling past corner stores, older men lining up outside Benny's diner for coffee and eggs. church secretaries unlocking office doors, city workers dragging trash bins to the curb. That version of the city moved at its usual morning pace, slow and familiar, pretending the day had not changed. The other version lived on screens. In that city, Maya was everywhere. The video had already been clipped, captioned, slowed down, replayed, and shared. One clip showed Officer Brent Calloway snatching the book from her hands. Another showed him saying, "You people always want to turn everything into a courtroom." Another showed the moment the badge fell from her purse and landed face up on the pavement. That clip traveled fastest. People watched Calloway's face change when he realized who she was, and they shared it with the anger of people who recognized more than a single bad moment. They recognized a pattern. At the Westbridge Police Department, phones began ringing before Sergeant Daniels finished driving Calloway back to headquarters. The dispatch room was the first to feel it. A young dispatcher named Tessa Monroe sat at her console with 3 lines blinking red. Her headset pressed hard against one ear, while another phone buzzed on the desk beside her. She had been working dispatch for 6 years, long enough to hear panic in every shape. House fires, missing children, highway crashes, domestic calls where the caller whispered from a bathroom with the door locked. But this was different. These callers were not asking for help. They were demanding answers. "Yes, ma'am. The department is aware of the video," Tessa said, keeping her voice even. "Yes, ma'am. The incident is being reviewed." "No. I cannot provide personnel information over the phone." Another line blinked, then another, across the room. Dispatcher Mark Ellison pulled one side of his headset away and muttered, "It's like the whole state got our number at once." Tessa did not smile. She had seen the video. Everyone in the room had. Someone had sent it into the department group chat before command staff could stop it. By then, the clip of Calloway holding Maya's book like garbage had already passed from phone to phone faster than any memo ever could. Captain Howard Pierce came through the dispatch room, with his tie half knotted and his face the color of old paper. At 61, Pierce was a career administrator, the kind of man who believed every disaster could be contained if the right words were used in the right order. He had survived budget fights, union threats, mayoral turnovers, and one winter when a snowstorm left half the patrol fleet buried under ice. He had never seen anything move like this. "Tessa," he said, stopping at her station, "are reporters calling dispatch directly? Reporters, residents, council members, somebody from a veterans group, 2 pastors, and a woman from Phoenix who just wanted to call Officer Calloway a disgrace." Pierce rubbed his forehead. "Do not transfer media calls to command. Send them to the public information line. They're already calling that too." Of course they were. Pierce looked through the glass toward the hallway. Officers were gathering in clusters, speaking in low voices. Some looked angry, some embarrassed, some afraid. The younger ones kept checking their phones, then quickly sliding them into pockets whenever a supervisor walked by. "Where's Calloway?" Pierce asked. "Sergeant Daniels is 2 minutes out," Mark said from across the room. She radioed in. "Weapon secured. Badge secured. Body cam flagged." Pierce closed his eyes briefly. "Body cam. That could save them or bury them. Make sure it preserves everything," he said. "Dash cam, body cam, radio logs, GPS, dispatch audio, everything from the last 2 hours." Tessa looked up. "Captain, the chief's office already ordered a full preservation hold." Pierce opened his eyes. The chief's office, for nearly 4 months. Westbridge had been led by Acting Chief Robert Harlan, a tired man counting the days until retirement. Harlan had agreed to remain only until Maya William could officially take over. Most people expected a smooth transition, a photograph, a handshake, a speech about unity. Now the incoming chief had become the center of a national scandal before taking the oath. Pierce turned toward the hallway. "Where is Acting Chief Harlan?" "In his office," Tessa said. "On the phone with the mayor." That was not good. When a chief spoke to the mayor, the problem was political. When the mayor stopped speaking and started listening, the problem was survival. Pierce walked fast. Inside the chief's office, Robert Harlan stood behind his desk with one hand braced against the wood and the other holding his phone so tightly his knuckles looked white. He was 63, broad-shouldered, gray-haired, and old enough to remember when police work was mostly trusted by default. Those days were gone, and part of him knew they had not disappeared for no reason. "No, Madam Mayor," Harlan said. "I understand." "Yes." Sergeant Daniels relieved him at the scene. "No, he is not on duty." "Yes." "Body camera footage is being preserved." "Yes, I have spoken with Internal Affairs." He saw Pierce in the doorway and pointed to a chair without interrupting the call. Pierce sat. Harlan listened for almost a full minute. His face tightened with every sentence he heard. "Finally," he said, "I understand the concern. But termination has to follow process. If we skip steps, the union will drag this out for 18 months and turn him into a martyr. We do it clean, or we do it twice." A pause. "Yes, Mayor, I know who he did it to. But with respect, that's not the standard we should be using. He did it to a citizen. That is enough." Pierce looked down at his hands. That was the first wise thing anyone had said all morning. Harlan ended the call and placed the phone on his desk as if it might explode. Pierce leaned forward. "How bad?" "Worse than bad." "Governor?" "Not yet. His staff called City Hall. The mayor expects a formal inquiry by lunch." "State police?" "Maybe." "Doi?" Harlan stared at him. Pierce exhaled slowly. "Already?" The live stream hit 200,000 before she ended it. A civil rights group clipped the search. "A former federal prosecutor is already on television saying this looks like unlawful detention and illegal search. The city attorney is on her way." Pierce rubbed both hands over his face. "God help us." Harlan's voice dropped. "God has been trying. We keep not listening." Neither man spoke for a moment. Through the closed office door came the muffled sound of phones ringing, voices moving, a department suddenly aware that its walls were thinner than it had believed. Pierce looked up. "What do you want done with Calloway when he arrives?" "Interview room 3. Not a holding cell. Not yet. He's still an employee, and I don't want anyone claiming we treated him unfairly. Union rep can sit outside, but nobody talks to him until Internal Affairs gets here. He's going to say he was set up. Of course he is. He'll say she knew who he was and baited him." Harlan's eyes hardened. "Then we ask why a trained officer was so easy to bait into violating policy, humiliating a woman, and searching a purse without consent." Pierce nodded. A knock came at the door. Before Harlan could answer, Sergeant Daniels stepped in. Her uniform was neat, but her face showed the strain of the morning. "He's here," she said. Harlan straightened. "Where?" "Interview 3. Lewis is with him. Ramirez is uploading the body cam under evidence protocol. Did Calloway say anything on the ride?" Daniels looked tired. "Plenty. Anything useful?" He said the incoming chief ruined his life. Harlan closed his eyes. Pierce muttered, "Not exactly useful." "No," Daniels said, "but revealing." Harlan picked up his jacket from the back of his chair. "Let's go." Interview room 3 had no windows, just a table, 4 chairs, a wall clock, and a camera in the upper corner that recorded everything. Calloway sat alone on one side of the table, stripped of his badge and duty weapon but still in uniform. That made it worse somehow. The shirt still said police. The man inside it had made the word smaller. He looked up when Harlan entered. "Chief," Calloway said quickly, standing. "Thank God. You have to understand. This is being blown out of proportion." Harlan did not tell him to sit. He let the silence work. Calloway continued anyway. "She never told me who she was." Harlan's voice was quiet. "Why should she have had to?" Calloway blinked. "What? Why should a citizen have to tell you she's important before you treat her with basic dignity?" Calloway's mouth opened, then closed. Harlan pulled out a chair and sat across from him. Sergeant Daniels stood near the wall. Pierce remained by the door. Calloway tried again. "I had reasonable suspicion." "Of what?" "She was loitering. In a public park. She was acting evasive. She was reading a book. She refused ID. After you failed to articulate a crime." Calloway's face reddened. "You're taking her side." Harlan leaned forward slightly. "No, officer. I am taking the side of the Constitution, department policy, and the camera you forgot the whole city was watching." The word officer seemed to sting Calloway more than his name would have, maybe because it reminded him of what he had been trusted to be. Calloway lowered his voice. "Chief, come on. I've got 12 years here. And apparently 12 years was not enough time to learn that contempt is not probable cause. The room went still. Harlan placed a folder on the table. You are relieved of duty pending formal administrative investigation. Internal Affairs will conduct an interview. You have the right to representation. You will not contact Maya William, any witness from Maple Grove Park, or any member of the media. You will surrender department access cards, vehicle keys, and any secondary equipment before leaving the building. Calloway stared at the folder. Leaving the building? Yes. You're sending me home? I am removing you from the workplace. What am I supposed to tell my wife? Harlan's expression did not soften. I suggest the truth. It will be good practice. Calloway looked at Daniels, as if expecting sympathy from another uniform. She gave him none. His voice cracked slightly. You're all going to let her do this to me? Daniels answered before Harlan could. Brent, she didn't do this to you. She sat on a bench. For the first time, Calloway had no reply. Outside the interview room, the department continued to ring, buzz, and unravel. Inside, the man who had walked into a park believing power belonged to him sat without a badge, without a weapon, and without the story he had planned to tell. And across town, Maya Williams' phone kept lighting up with messages from a city that suddenly understood her first day had begun before the oath. Maya Williams did not go to City Hall first. She went home, not because she was running from the storm, and not because she needed to hide from cameras, but because there are moments when a person must stand in one quiet room before facing the noise of an entire city. Her apartment was on the third floor of an old brick building 3 blocks from downtown, the kind of place with creaking stairs, mailboxes that stuck in humid weather, and neighbors who still left casseroles outside a door when someone died. She locked the door behind her and stood there for a moment, holding the damaged book against her chest. The apartment was still. Morning light fell across the kitchen table. A mug from the night before sat in the sink. Her navy dress uniform hung on the bedroom door, pressed and ready for the ceremony that was supposed to happen 2 days later. Her father's framed photograph stood on the bookshelf, his old patrol cap resting beside it. Maya placed the book on the table. Coffee had soaked into the bottom corner. Several pages were wrinkled. The cover was bent where Calloway had gripped it. She touched the damage lightly with 2 fingers and felt something she had refused to feel in the park. Anger. Not loud anger. Not reckless anger. A deep, old anger, the kind carried by people who had learned to stay composed because the world punished them whenever they did not. It moved through her slowly, like heat behind a closed door. Her phone rang again. This time, it was her mother. Maya let it ring twice before answering. Hey, Mama. There was no greeting on the other end. Are you hurt? No. Don't you give me the police answer. Are you hurt? Maya closed her eyes. That was the difference between a city and a mother. A city asked for statements. A mother asked where the pain was hiding. I'm not physically hurt, Maya said. Her mother was quiet for one breath. I saw the video. I figured. I saw that man take your book. Maya looked at the table. He did. That was your father's book. I know. Another silence. This one hurt more. When her mother spoke again, her voice had gone lower. Your daddy spent his whole life trying to be the kind of officer people could trust. And that man stood there wearing the same kind of badge, talking to you like you were trash. Maya leaned against the counter. Mama, I'm handling it. I know you are. That's what worries me. Maya almost smiled, but it faded before it reached her face. Her mother continued, softer now. You don't always have to be made of stone. I wasn't being stone. I was being careful. I know the difference, baby. I taught you the difference. Maya swallowed. Outside, a car passed slowly on the street below. She wondered if it was a reporter. The thought made her tired. I wanted one quiet morning, she said. I know. I kept thinking, if he's doing this to me, what has he done to people who couldn't call the city manager? People no one would recognize? People who don't have a badge in their purse? Her mother sighed, the sound of a woman who had asked that same question in 100 forms for 50 years. Then you already know what your first job is, she said. Maya opened her eyes. On the bedroom door, the uniform waited. Yes, Maya said. I do. Good. Then eat something before you go fight Goliath. Despite herself, Maya laughed once. Mama, I'm serious. You sound like you've had nothing but coffee and righteous indignation. That's not a bad breakfast. It is if you want to live past 40. Maya looked toward the kitchen. There was half a container of oatmeal in the cabinet, 2 eggs in the fridge, and an apple she had forgotten about. Her mother would know if she lied. I'll eat. And Maya, yes, ma'am? When you stand in front of those people today, don't make yourself smaller to keep them comfortable. The words settled in her. I won't. After the call ended, Maya stood still for a long time. Then she made oatmeal, not because she was hungry, but because her mother had asked. She ate 3 spoonfuls, gave up, and changed into a dark suit. Before leaving, she picked up her father's old badge from the shelf. It was wrapped in a blue cloth, worn smooth at the edges from years of use. She unfolded it and held it in her palm. His badge had scratches. Real ones. Not from ceremony, but from work. From winter nights and traffic stops and doors knocked on gently before bad news was delivered. Her father had not been perfect. No officer was. But he had believed in being accountable before being defended. Maya placed the badge back into the cloth and slipped it into her purse. The same purse Calloway had grabbed. She looked at it for a moment, then took it anyway. By the time she reached City Hall, the street outside was crowded. News vans lined the curb. Reporters stood beneath portable lights even though the sun was high. Residents had gathered on both sides of the steps, some holding handmade signs. Most were simple. We saw it. Protect all citizens. No more quiet files. A group of older churchwomen stood together near the front, wearing Sunday hats on a weekday, their faces solemn and proud. One of them recognized Maya as she stepped from the car. There she is, the woman said. The crowd turned. For a second, Maya felt the full weight of their attention. Not celebrity, not curiosity, something heavier. Expectation. City manager Laura Bennett hurried down the steps to meet her. She was a white woman in her early 50s with sharp eyes, sensible shoes, and the exhausted look of someone who had been on the phone with lawyers since breakfast. Maya, Laura said, lowering her voice, we can take you through the side entrance. Maya looked at the front doors. No. Laura studied her face. You sure? I didn't ask the city to trust me through a side door. Laura nodded slowly. Fair enough. As they climbed the steps, reporters shouted questions. Chief William, did Officer Calloway know who you were? Do you believe this was racial profiling? Will you terminate him? Are you moving up the swearing-in? Maya did not answer until she reached the top step. Then she turned. The noise dropped in pieces. I will make a statement inside, she said, but I want to say one thing now. This city will not be governed by outrage alone, and it will not be protected by silence. We will follow the facts. We will follow policy. And where policy has been used to hide misconduct, policy will change. A reporter called out, do you think Officer Calloway should lose his job? Maya looked across the crowd. She saw anger, hope, cameras, fear. She saw older black men standing with their hands folded, watching her with eyes that had seen too many promises fail. She saw white retirees who looked shaken, as if the video had forced them to notice something they had spent years not seeing. She saw a little girl holding her grandmother's hand. My personal anger is not the process, Maya said. But accountability will not be optional. Then she walked inside. The conference room on the second floor was already full. Acting Chief Harlan sat at one end of the table, Captain Pierce beside him, Sergeant Daniels across from them, and the city attorney near the window with a stack of folders. Nobody stood dramatically when Maya entered. This was not a movie. People simply became quieter. Harlan rose first. Chief William, he said. She met his eyes. Acting Chief. There was no hostility in her tone, but there was clarity. The room understood. The transition had effectively begun. Laura closed the door behind them. We need decisions. The city attorney adjusted her glasses. First, preservation of evidence is active. Second, internal affairs is opening a formal investigation. Third, given the public nature of the incident, we recommend an outside review to avoid conflict of interest. Maya sat down. Agreed. Captain Pierce leaned forward. The union has called twice. They want access to Calloway. Before any administrative interview. They can have the access policy allows, Maya said. No more, no less. Harlan nodded. That's clean. Laura looked at Maya. The mayor wants to move your swearing in to this afternoon. Pierce frowned. That may look reactive. It is reactive, Laura said. The city is on fire. Maya folded her hands on the table. No. We don't move the oath because of Calloway. We move it only if the department needs clear command authority today. Everyone looked at Harlan. The acting chief exhaled. He seemed older than he had that morning. It does. The admission was quiet, but it carried years of fatigue. Maya looked at him for a long moment. Are you prepared to step aside today? Harlan's face tightened, not with resentment, but with grief. I stayed to keep the chair warm. I won't pretend it's still mine when the house is burning. For the first time that day, Maya felt something like respect settle between them. Laura wrote something on her legal pad. Then we moved the ceremony to 4 o'clock. Public, but controlled. Press present. Community leaders present. Department leadership present. Maya turned to Sergeant Daniels. What about Calloway? Daniels answered plainly. He's at home pending investigation. Weapon and badge secured. Access card disabled. Body cam uploaded. He's angry. Angry enough to contact witnesses? Possibly. Then issue a written no-contact order immediately. Witnesses, department personnel connected to the investigation, and me. The city attorney nodded. I'll draft it. Maya leaned back slightly. The room waited for more. They expected strategy, damage, control, a speech about healing. Instead, she asked the question that mattered most. How many complaints has Calloway had? Pierce shifted. Maya saw it. Captain? He looked at the folder in front of him. 11 formal complaints in 12 years. Several informal. The room went cold. Maya's voice was low. How many sustained? 1. Why? Pierce hesitated. Insufficient evidence. Conflicting statements. Complainants declined to proceed. Maya looked around the table. No. Why was he still on the street? No one answered. That silence was the real beginning of her tenure. Maya stood. Then we start there. Not with the video, not with the headline, with the years before it. Laura looked up. Maya, that review could expose the whole department. Maya picked up her purse. Good. The room went still again. She turned toward the window, where the crowd outside remained visible beyond the glass. If we only punish the man caught on camera, we teach the department to fear cameras, she said. If we examine the system that taught him he could act that way, we teach the department to fear becoming him. No one spoke for several seconds. Then Acting Chief Harlan nodded once. I'll sign whatever order you need before 4. Maya looked back at him. Thank you. Outside, the crowd continued to grow. Inside, the city began to shift. Not loudly, not completely, but enough for everyone in that room to understand that Officer Brent Calloway had not simply harassed the wrong woman. He had exposed the locked door Maya William had been hired to open. By 3 o'clock, City Hall no longer felt like a government building. It felt like the center of a storm. The lobby was packed with reporters, staff members, council aides, and residents who had come because they had seen the video and could not stay home. Security officers tried to keep a clear path between the front doors and the elevators, but every few minutes another camera crew arrived. Another community leader asked to be let upstairs. Another phone began ringing behind the reception desk. Maya William watched it all from a second-floor conference room window. Outside, the crowd had spread across the sidewalk and down the steps. Some people held signs. Some held phones. Some stood with arms folded, saying nothing at all. The quiet ones concerned Maya most. Anger could be heard. Disappointment often stood in silence. Behind her, City Manager Laura Bennett spoke quickly into her phone. No, Councilman. The mayor will not be taking questions before the ceremony. Yes. The statement will address the investigation. No, we are not releasing the raw body cam footage until legal reviews it. I understand that sounds slow. Slow and lawful is better than fast and useless. Acting Chief Harlan sat at the table, reading the preliminary incident summary. His face looked heavier with every page. Captain Pierce stood near the coffee machine, holding a paper cup he had not touched. Sergeant Daniels had returned to headquarters to oversee witness statements and evidence collection. Officer Calloway was at home, suspended pending review, but his presence still filled the room like smoke. Maya's phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number appeared on the screen. You ruined a good officer's life for attention. Another followed almost instantly. Chief of Criminals. Then another. Race baiter. Maya turned the phone face down on the table. Laura ended her call and noticed. Threats? Insults. That's the difference? Threats require paperwork. Laura did not laugh. Maya, I'm fine. You've said that too many times today. Maya looked back through the window. A group of older black women stood near the front steps, holding hands in a loose circle. She recognized one of them from the park. The woman with the stroller was there too. No stroller this time, just her phone in one hand and a determined look on her face. I'll deal with the messages later, Maya said. Harlan lowered the report. You shouldn't have to. No, Maya said. But I do. The door opened, and the city attorney, Denise Caldwell, stepped in with a folder pressed to her chest. She was in her late 60s, sharp-eyed, with the controlled patience of someone who had spent decades explaining law to people who preferred emotion when it benefited them, and procedure when it protected them. We have a problem, she said. Laura closed her eyes. Only one? Denise ignored the joke. The union has issued a statement. Captain Pierce finally looked up. Already? Denise opened the folder. They are calling Officer Calloway's suspension premature and politically motivated. They claim he was denied the opportunity to complete his investigation, and that the incoming chief's identity created unfair pressure on supervisors at the scene. Harlan's jaw tightened. He searched her purse on camera. Yes, Denise said. And they are not disputing that yet. They are reframing it. Maya turned from the window. Read the exact language. Denise adjusted her glasses. The association believes Officer Calloway acted in response to a suspicious individual refusing basic cooperation in a public area where residents had expressed safety concerns. The room went cold, Laura muttered. Suspicious individual. Pierce set down his untouched coffee. They're doubling down. No, Maya said quietly. They're testing the ground. Everyone looked at her. She walked to the table and placed both hands on the back of a chair. They want to see whether the city is more afraid of public anger or union pressure. If we rush, they'll call it politics. If we hesitate, the community will call it a cover-up. Both sides expect us to make a mistake. Harlan nodded slowly. That's exactly right. So we don't. Laura looked tired. Then what do we say? Maya picked up the union statement and read the page herself. Her face did not change, but something in her eyes hardened. We say Officer Calloway is entitled to due process, she said. We also say due process is not denial. The department will not excuse conduct just because the person wearing the uniform is uncomfortable being watched. Denise made a note. Good, Maya continued. And we do not describe me as the incoming chief in the first sentence. Laura looked surprised. Why not? Because that makes it sound like this matters because of rank. It matters because a citizen was treated unlawfully. My title is evidence of his bad judgment, not the reason his conduct was wrong. Harlan leaned back. That will play well. Maya looked at him. I'm not trying to make it play well. No, he said. That's why it will. Before Maya could answer, her phone rang. This time the name on the screen made the room go quiet. Mayor Evelyn Ross. Maya answered and put it on speaker. Madame Mayor. Maya, the mayor said, her voice tight but controlled. Are you in the conference room? Yes. City Manager Bennett, Acting Chief Harlan, Captain Pierce, and City Attorney Caldwell are here. Good. Then everyone needs to hear this. The governor's office called. They are monitoring the situation. The Attorney General's Civil Rights Division has requested preservation of all evidence. Denise closed her eyes briefly, not in surprise but confirmation. Mayor Ross continued. I am moving your swearing into 4 o'clock. That decision is final. The city needs clear command authority. Robert, are you prepared to formally transfer operational control? Harlan looked at the phone. Yes, Madam Mayor. Maya, are you prepared to take it? Maya looked at the damaged book lying on the table beside her purse. The coffee stain had dried darker now, spreading across the lower corner like a bruise. Yes, she said, but I have one condition. Laura's eyebrows rose. The mayor paused. Name it. I speak after the oath, not before. No political framing. No mayoral apology on my behalf. No attempt to turn this into a celebration of historic firsts, while the department is under scrutiny. The line was quiet for a moment. Then the mayor said, You understand there are people downstairs who need hope. Yes, and hope built on performance collapses by morning. Harlan looked at her with something close to admiration. Mayor Ross exhaled. What do you intend to say? The truth. That can be expensive. So can lies. Another silence. Finally, the mayor said, All right, 4 o'clock, council chamber. I'll keep my remarks short. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The call ended. For a few seconds, no one moved. Then Laura said softly, Well, that's one way to start a job. Maya picked up her phone again. More messages had arrived. Some hateful, some frightened, some from citizens sharing their own stories about Calloway. One from a woman named Denise Harper, age 62, who wrote that Calloway had pulled over her son 3 years ago and made him sit handcuffed on a curb for 40 minutes because he fit a description that never appeared in any report. Another from a retired teacher who said Calloway had laughed when she asked why he was questioning 2 black teenagers outside the library. Maya read only enough to understand. Then she handed the phone to Denise Caldwell. Preserve these. Denise took it carefully. All of them? All of them. Separate threats from complaints. Complaints go into the pattern review. Pierce shifted near the coffee machine. Chief, that could open old cases. Maya looked at him, then opened them. I'm not objecting. Good. I'm warning you. Some people in the building will see that as an attack. Maya walked toward him, not aggressively, but with the quiet certainty that had carried her through every room where people underestimated her until it was too late. Captain Pierce, I need every person in that building to understand something before sunset. I am not attacking the department. I am removing the rot that made people stop trusting it. Anyone who cannot tell the difference has already chosen a side. Pierce held her gaze for a moment, then nodded, understood. A staffer knocked and opened the door slightly. They're ready downstairs. Maya looked once more toward the window. The crowd had grown larger. Police officers stood along the steps, not in riot formation, not with shields or hard eyes, but as uneasy witnesses to their own institution being judged in public. Some looked ashamed, some defensive, some simply tired. Maya picked up her father's old book. Laura noticed. You're bringing it? Yes. It's damaged. That's why. They left the conference room together. As they walked down the hallway, city employees stepped aside. Some offered quiet nods. One older janitor, a black man with gray hair and keys clipped to his belt, removed his cap as she passed. Chief, he said. Maya stopped. She had not taken the oath yet. Technically, the title was early. But the way he said it was not about paperwork. It was about recognition. Sir, she said gently, what's your name? Walter James. Mr. James, please keep your cap on. You work here. You don't have to uncover your head for me. His eyes softened. Your daddy would have liked hearing that. Maya went still. You knew my father? Worked nights at the old precinct before they tore it down. Officer William used to walk me to my bus stop when my shift ran late. Said nobody who worked all night should have to stand alone in the dark. For a moment, the hallway, the cameras, the scandal, the appointment, all of it faded. Maya held the book tighter. That sounds like him. Walter nodded toward the council chamber doors. Then go carry it right. Maya's throat tightened. I'll try. No, he said, kind but firm. Do it. The chamber doors opened. Noise poured out, then fell almost immediately as people saw her. The council chamber was full. Reporters lined the walls. Residents filled every seat. Officers stood in the back. The mayor waited near the podium with one hand resting on a Bible. Maya walked forward with her damaged book in one hand and her father's badge in her purse. Officer Calloway had tried to make her prove she belonged on a park bench. Now the entire city was about to watch her take command. Maya William reached the front of the council chamber, and the room rose to its feet. The applause did not come all at once. It started in the back, where several older residents stood shoulder to shoulder near the wall. Then the church women in the front row began clapping. Then the reporters stopped whispering. Then the officers standing along the side aisle slowly joined, some with hesitation, some with visible emotion, some because they understood that refusing to clap would say more than clapping ever could. Maya did not smile for the cameras. She stood beside Mayor Evelyn Ross with the damaged book tucked under one arm and waited for the room to settle. The sound washed over her, but she did not let it lift her too high. Applause could be dangerous. It could make a person forget that praise was not the same as progress. When the room finally quieted, Mayor Ross stepped to the microphone. "Good afternoon," she said. "This was not the ceremony we planned." A few people murmured in agreement. The mayor looked toward Maya, then back at the room. But leadership is rarely tested on the schedule we choose. Today, our city witnessed something painful. A citizen sitting peacefully in a public park was treated with disrespect and suspicion. That citizen also happens to be the woman chosen to lead our police department. Both truths matter. But let me be clear. The first truth would have been enough. Maya glanced down briefly. "Good," she thought. The mayor continued. "Acting Chief Robert Harlan has agreed to formally transfer command today. We thank him for his decades of service and for his willingness to assist in this transition." Harlan stood from his seat near the front. The room applauded again, softer this time. He nodded once, not looking proud, not looking defeated, just tired and honest. Then Mayor Ross turned to Maya. "Maya William, please step forward." The Bible rested on a small table beside the podium. Maya had requested it not because she wanted theater, but because it had belonged to her father. Her mother had brought it from the apartment, wrapped in a white cloth. The leather cover was cracked at the spine. His name, Daniel William, was written inside in blue ink, along with the date he graduated from the academy. Maya placed her left hand on it. Mayor Ross raised her right hand. Maya raised hers. The room held its breath. "Do you, Maya William, solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of this state, and the laws of the city of Westbridge, and to faithfully discharge the duties of Chief of Police to the best of your ability?" Maya's voice was clear. "I do. Do you swear to serve all residents of this city with fairness, courage, and integrity?" "I do. Do you accept the responsibility of command, including the duty to hold this department and yourself accountable?" Maya paused for half a second, not because she doubted the answer, because she wanted every officer in the room to hear it. "I do." Mayor Ross lowered her hand. "Then by the authority vested in me as mayor of Westbridge, I hereby appoint you Chief of Police." The applause returned, louder than before. Maya's mother stood in the front row with tears on her cheeks, one hand pressed against her heart. Beside her stood Walter James, the janitor from the hallway, holding his cap in both hands despite Maya's request. Sergeant Daniels stood near the aisle, clapping once, then again, her face controlled but proud. Captain Pierce did not clap loudly, but he clapped steadily. Acting Chief Harlan gave a small nod that carried more respect than any speech he could have made. Maya accepted the badge from Mayor Ross. It was not the badge that had fallen from her purse in the park. This was the official chief's badge, polished bright, heavy in the palm, newly engraved with her name. For a moment, as the mayor pinned it to her jacket, Maya felt the weight of every contradiction in the room: hope and anger, trust and doubt, history and possibility. The badge caught the lights, and for a second she thought of Calloway holding her book like trash. A badge did not make a person honorable. It only revealed whether they already were. When the applause faded, Maya stepped to the microphone. She placed the damaged book on the podium where everyone could see it. Cameras zoomed in immediately on the bent cover and the dark coffee stain along the bottom edge. She waited until the room was quiet. "My father gave me this book when I was 14, she began. No one moved. "He told me that justice looks simple when you are young because you have not yet seen how many people are willing to complicate it when fairness costs them something. I did not fully understand him then. I understand him now." Her mother lowered her eyes. "This morning, I sat in Maple Grove Park reading this book. I was not there as your incoming chief. I was not there as a public figure. I was not there to make a statement. I was there as a citizen. And that matters, because the rights I had on that bench were not given to me by a title. They belonged to me before anyone in this building knew my name." A murmur moved through the room, quiet and approving. Maya continued, her voice calm but firm. "Officer Brent Calloway is entitled to due process. He will receive it. This department will not answer wrongdoing with shortcuts, because shortcuts are part of how departments lose their soul. But due process is not denial. It is not delay disguised as fairness. It is not a hiding place for misconduct." Several officers in the back shifted their weight. Maya saw them. She wanted them to be uncomfortable, not humiliated, not attacked. Uncomfortable enough to listen, What happened today was recorded, but I want to be clear. The camera did not create the conduct. It revealed it. A live stream did not damage this department's reputation. The behavior on that live stream did. The reporters wrote quickly. Maya looked toward the residents. To the citizens of Westbridge, especially those who watched that video and thought, "That has happened to me," I hear you. To those who thought, "I did not know it was that bad," I ask you not to look away now that you know. And to those who are asking whether one video can change a department, my answer is no. One video cannot. But one honest response to one video can begin to. Her voice softened. Justice is not fair simply because it arrives late. Sometimes late justice is only the first apology. The work is making sure the next person does not have to wait for a camera, a title, or a crowd before they are believed. The room went still again. Maya turned slightly toward the officers standing along the wall. To the men and women of the Westbridge Police Department, I am not here to punish honest police work. I am here to defend it. Good officers should not fear accountability. They should demand it, because every officer who abuses power steals trust from those who earned it. Sergeant Daniels nodded once. Maya placed one hand on the damaged book. Starting today, I am ordering a full review of prior civilian complaints involving Officer Calloway. I am also ordering an audit of how this department handles complaints related to bias, unlawful stops, and consent searches. That review will include outside oversight. The room reacted at once. Some people applauded. Some officers stiffened. A reporter whispered, "That's the headline." Captain Pierce looked down, then back up, accepting the weight of what had just been announced. Maya did not stop. Any officer who has served this city with honor has nothing to fear from the truth. Any officer who is hidden behind paperwork, silence, or the protection of old friendships should understand that the old way ended this morning on a park bench. The sentence landed hard. Maya lit it. Then she closed with the voice of someone speaking not only as a chief, but as a daughter. My father used to say a badge is not a crown. It is a promise. Today, I accept that promise. Not above you, beside you, and when necessary, between power and the people it forgets to respect. For a moment, no one clapped. The room needed a second to absorb it. Then Walter James began. His hands came together slowly, firmly, each clap echoing like a bell. Maya's mother joined next. Then the churchwomen. Then the residents. Then most of the officers. The applause rose until it filled the chamber, not with celebration alone, but with something more fragile and more important. Consent. A city was giving her permission to begin. When the ceremony ended, reporters shouted again, but Laura Bennett guided Maya through a side hallway before the room could collapse into chaos. This time, Maya did not object. She had faced the front doors when it mattered. In the hallway, Harlan caught up with her. "Chief," he said. She turned. He held out a sealed folder. Calloway's complaint history. Full file. Not the summary. Maya took it. "How bad?" she asked. Harlan's expression answered before he did. "Bad enough that this morning should not have surprised us." Maya looked down at the folder. It felt heavier than the badge. "Then we start tonight." Harlan nodded. "I'll make sure internal affairs is ready." As he walked away, Laura approached with Maya's phone in her hand. "You need to see this," Laura said. Maya's shoulders tightened. "Another statement?" "No, another video." Laura turned the phone toward her. On the screen was an older black woman, maybe in her 60s, sitting at a kitchen table. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "My son filed a complaint against Officer Calloway in 2019. Nobody listened. Maybe now they will." Maya watched the woman wipe her eyes. Then another video appeared beneath it. A retired postal worker, a high school teacher, a father, a college student. Different faces, different years, same officer, same tone. Sans humiliation. The story had broken open. Maya looked at the sealed folder in her hand. The first 5 minutes had buried Calloway's career, but the years behind those 5 minutes were about to bury something much larger. Maya Williams stood in the side hallway of City Hall with the sealed folder in one hand and Laura Bennett's phone in the other, watching strangers become witnesses. The first video was from a woman named Denise Harper, 62 years old, seated at a kitchen table with a lace curtain behind her and a cup of tea untouched beside her hand. Her voice trembled, but she did not look away from the camera. My son filed a complaint against Officer Calloway in 2019, she said. He was 23 then. Had just started working at the hospital. Calloway pulled him over 2 blocks from our house, said he matched a description, wouldn't say what description. Made him sit on the curb in handcuffs while neighbors drove by. My boy came home different that day. Quieter. Smaller. We filed the complaint. Nobody called us back. The video ended. Another began. A retired postal worker named James Ellis sat in his garage, surrounded by fishing rods and old license plates nailed to the wall. I served in the Army, worked 32 years for the Postal Service, paid taxes in this city longer than Officer Calloway's been alive. He stopped me outside my own mailbox and asked if I was stealing mail. I showed him my ID. He laughed and said, "Anybody can wear a uniform." I reported it. They told me there was insufficient evidence. Another, a teacher, a grandmother, a college student, a grocery store manager. Different streets, different years. Same officer, same pattern. A question that was really an accusation, a hand too close to the belt, a search framed as safety, a report that made the victim sound unstable, evasive, or aggressive. Maya handed the phone back to Laura. "How many?" she asked. Laura's face looked drawn. "Public videos? At least 14 in the last hour. Written messages, over 100. Some are duplicates, some are just anger, but enough are specific that Denise wants them preserved." Maya looked down at the folder Harlan had given her. "And inside this? Formal complaints. 11, Maya said. Laura nodded. "That we know of." The hallway around them remained busy. Staff moved with papers and phones. Reporters shouted from beyond the locked doors. The ceremony had ended, but the pressure had not. If anything, Maya felt the city leaning harder against the walls, demanding to know whether this day would become another speech or the first cut into something infected. Acting Chief Harlan returned with Captain Pierce. Harlan had removed his tie. Pierce carried a tablet and looked like he had aged 5 years since breakfast. "We have internal affairs ready," Harlan said. "Conference room B. City Attorney is there. Sergeant Daniels is bringing body cam and radio logs." Maya nodded. "Good." Pierce glanced at the folder in her hand. "You opened it yet?" "Not yet." He looked uncomfortable. "Chief, before you do, I need to say something." Maya waited. Pierce took a breath. "Some of those complaints came across my desk." Laura stopped moving. Harlan looked at him sharply. "Howard." Pierce held up one hand. "I'm not excusing it. I'm putting it on the table before someone else does. Most of them came back as inconclusive. No video. No witness willing to sign. Calloway always had clean reports. He knew how to write just enough to protect himself." Maya studied him. "And you accepted that?" Pierce's jaw tightened. "I accepted the process we had." "That isn't an answer." "No," he said quietly. "It isn't." For a moment, the hallway noise faded behind the weight of that admission. Maya saw shame in his face. But shame was not enough. Shame did not restore anyone's dignity. Shame did not undo a child watching his father handcuffed on a curb. Still, it was something to see a man stop hiding behind procedure. "We'll discuss that in the review," Maya said. Pierce nodded once. "Yes, Chief." They moved to conference room B. Inside, the blinds were drawn and every seat was full. Denise Caldwell had set up a laptop at the head of the table. Sergeant Daniels stood beside a monitor, body cam footage ready to play. 2 internal affairs investigators sat with notebooks open. One was Lieutenant Paul Reedy, a careful man with thinning hair and nervous hands. The other was Detective Angela Morris, younger, sharper, with the kind of stillness Maya trusted more than a polished resume. Denise looked up. "Chief, before we begin, this is an administrative review, not a criminal proceeding. Anything that suggests criminal conduct will be separated and referred properly." "Understood," Maya said. "And because you are the complainant and the incoming authority over this department, we recommend an outside agency be brought in for the final disciplinary investigation." "Agreed," Maya said. "But we are not waiting to understand what happened." "No," Denise said. "We are not." Maya sat at the head of the table. The title still felt new. The chair did not. Sergeant Daniels pressed play. The first body cam clip began before Calloway reached the bench. The camera shook slightly with his steps. His breathing was audible. Maya appeared in frame, seated, reading. Nothing about her posture suggested danger. Nothing in the park suggested a call for service. There was no visible disturbance, just a woman, a book, and a cup of coffee. Then Calloway's voice filled the room. "Show me your ID." Maya watched herself on the screen. She saw the hand snatch the book. She heard the first insult. No one in the room spoke. Even those who had seen the live stream seemed affected by the body camera's colder angle. It removed the crowd, the comments, the viral energy. It showed the event as policy would see it. Contact. Command. Escalation. Calloway had escalated in less than 10 seconds. Detective Morris wrote something down. The footage continued. "People like you. Stop performing. You people always." At each phrase, the air in the room tightened. Harlan looked down at the table. Pierce stared at the monitor like a man watching a building collapse that he had once inspected and approved. Then came the search. Maya's refusal was clear. "I do not consent to a search of my property." Calloway's answer was clearer. "You think I care what you consent to?" Lieutenant Reedy closed his eyes briefly. Denise paused the video. "There," she said. "That statement alone is a major policy violation." Maya's voice was steady. "Continue." The clip resumed. The purse opened. Items fell. The badge case slipped. The badge hit pavement. Even in the room, with everyone knowing what was coming, the sound seemed to strike like a bell. Calloway's face filled the screen. Confusion. Fear. Calculation. Then his voice, smaller than before. "No, nobody told me." Denise stopped the video again. Maya looked at the frozen image of him staring at her badge. "That is the moment this became useful to him." Harlan looked up. "What do you mean?" "Before that, I was someone he thought he could control. After that, I became someone he needed to explain away." Sergeant Daniels nodded. "That's exactly how it felt on scene." Maya opened the sealed folder. The first complaint was from 2016. Traffic stop. A black father driving with 2 daughters in the back seat. Allegation. Unnecessary removal from vehicle. Demeaning language. Threat of arrest when questioned. Finding. Not sustained. Second complaint. 2017. Teenagers outside library. Allegation. Racial comments. Unlawful search of backpacks. Finding. Insufficient evidence. Third, 2018. Domestic call where Calloway allegedly told a Latina woman her English was good enough to lie. Finding. Counseling memo only. Fourth, fifth, sixth. Maya read quietly, but each page made the room feel smaller. By the 9th complaint, her anger had settled into something more dangerous than heat. Clarity. She closed the folder halfway. "This is not a personnel file. This is a warning label." No one argued. Detective Morris spoke first. "Chief, there are repeated elements. Stops without clear probable cause. Consent searches disputed by complainants. Language tied to race or class. Reports that justify escalation after the fact." "Pattern," Maya said. "Yes." Pierce leaned forward. "But most weren't sustained." Maya looked at him. "A pattern does not disappear because a process refuses to see it." Pierce accepted the blow in silence. Denise folded her hands. "We need to decide immediate next steps." Maya nodded. "First, Calloway remains suspended. No public contact. No witness contact. Second, outside agency review. Third, independent audit of all complaints involving unlawful stops, bias allegations, and consent searches for the past 10 years. Fourth, we notify the city council before they hear it from the news." Harlan said, "The union will fight the audit." "They can fight sunlight if they want," Maya said. "They'll lose." Lieutenant Reedy looked uneasy. "Chief, with respect, this could pull in supervisors. Not just Calloway." Maya turned to him. "Do you think this is only about Calloway?" Reedy did not answer. "That's what I thought." Her phone buzzed on the table. Laura glanced at it, then at Maya. "It's your mother again." For the first time in the room, Maya's expression softened. She picked up the phone but did not answer yet. She looked around the table first, My mother watched a man in our uniform put his hands on her daughter's belongings because he thought he could, Maya said. But there are mothers all over this city who watched that video and saw their sons, their daughters, their husbands, themselves. We will not offer them another paragraph about community trust. We will earn it or admit we don't deserve it. No one spoke. Then Sergeant Daniels said quietly, "Chief, tell us how." Maya looked at her, grateful for the question. "We begin by telling the truth inside the building before we ask the city to believe it outside." She stood. "Call an all-command meeting tonight. Every captain, lieutenant, sergeant, internal affairs, training division, patrol supervisors. No excuses, no absences unless they are on a hospital bed." Harlan nodded. "What time?" 7. Pierce wrote it down. Maya picked up the damaged book from the table and slipped the complaint folder beneath it. The symbolism was not lost on anyone. One book ruined in public, one folder hidden in private, both now evidence of the same thing. As they left the conference room, Laura walked beside her. "You know tonight won't be easy." Maya looked ahead. "Good." Laura gave her a tired look. "You keep saying that like you enjoy hard things." "No," Maya said. "I enjoy honest things. They just usually happen to be hard." At the end of the hallway, through a narrow window, Maya could see the city still gathered outside. The crowd had not left. Neither had the cameras. But the real confrontation, she knew, would not happen in front of them. It would happen at 7 o'clock, behind department doors, when men and women who had spent years surviving the old culture would be asked whether they had the courage to end it. At 7 o'clock, the command room at Westbridge Police Headquarters was full. But nobody looked comfortable. The room had been built for briefings, not reckoning. A large city map covered one wall. Shift boards hung beside it, filled with names, unit numbers, and patrol zones, written in dry erase marker. A flag stood in the corner. The coffee on the back table had gone bitter hours ago, but several officers still poured it because holding a cup gave their hands something to do. Maya Williams stood at the front of the room with no notes. She had changed nothing about her appearance after the ceremony. The chief's badge remained pinned to her jacket. The damaged book sat on the table beside her, its warped pages visible beneath the fluorescent lights. Next to it lay the thick folder of Officer Brent Calloway's complaint history. Every person in the room knew what both objects meant. Acting Chief Harlan stood near the door, no longer acting, no longer in command, but present by Maya's request. Captain Pierce sat in the front row. Sergeant Daniels stood along the side wall with her arms folded. Lieutenants, sergeants, internal affairs, patrol supervisors, and training staff filled the remaining seats. Some looked ashamed, some looked defensive, some looked angry that they had been called in after hours. Maya noticed all of it and said nothing for a moment. Silence, she had learned, made people reveal themselves. Finally, Lieutenant Carl Mason cleared his throat. He had 24 years on the job, and the heavy confidence of a man used to being listened to. "Chief, with respect, are we waiting on someone?" Maya looked at him. "No." He shifted in his chair. "Then maybe we should begin. A lot of people have shifts to manage." "We have already begun," Maya said. The room went still. She let the sentence sit there. Then she placed one hand on the damaged book. "This morning, Officer Calloway took this book out of my hands before I had time to look up. He mocked me for reading it. He demanded identification without articulating a crime. He tried to search my purse after I refused consent. He did these things in public, in daylight, while citizens watched. No one interrupted." Maya moved her hand to the folder. "This afternoon, I read complaints going back nearly a decade. Different residents, different neighborhoods, different dates. Same officer, same tone, same pattern. Most of those complaints were not sustained." Lieutenant Mason leaned back. "Because complaints require evidence." Maya turned to him. "And what did this department do when the same kind of complaint appeared again and again?" Mason's jaw tightened. "We followed procedure." "No," Maya said. "You followed paperwork." A few people shifted in their seats. Captain Pierce looked down. Maya continued. "Procedure is supposed to help us find truth. Paperwork is what we hide behind when we are tired, afraid, loyal to the wrong thing, or comfortable with the outcome." A sergeant in the second row, Frank Bell, folded his arms. "Chief, nobody here told Calloway to act like that." "No," Maya said, "but someone taught him he could survive it. The room quieted again, deeper this time. Sergeant Daniels did not move, but Maya saw her eyes lower for half a second. That sentence had reached her too. Maya stepped away from the table. I am not here to give a motivational speech. I am not here to tell good officers they are bad people. I am here to tell command staff the truth. A department does not become corrupt only when everyone is cruel. Sometimes it becomes corrupt when decent people get tired of confronting the cruel ones. That landed harder than anger would have. Detective Angela Morris from Internal Affairs sat near the aisle, notebook open. She looked up and said, "Chief, what are you ordering?" "3 things immediately," Maya said. "First, an outside agency will review Officer Calloway's conduct at Maple Grove Park and his complaint history. Second, Internal Affairs will audit every bias-related complaint, disputed consent search, and unlawful stop allegation from the last 10 years. Third, patrol supervisors will begin mandatory review of body camera footage selected at random, not just footage tied to complaints." Lieutenant Mason frowned. "Random body cam review will feel like surveillance of our own officers." Maya looked directly at him. "It is supervision. Morale is already low. Morale built on avoiding accountability is not morale. It is comfort." A younger lieutenant near the back lowered his eyes, trying not to react. Mason pressed on. "Chief, you're coming in during a crisis. I understand that. But if the first message officers hear from you is that you don't trust them, you'll lose the room before you lead it." Maya nodded slowly. "Then let me be clear. I trust honest officers more than anyone in this city does. I trust them enough to remove the officers making their work harder. I trust them enough to believe they can survive scrutiny. And I trust them enough not to treat them like children who need protection from the truth." Sergeant Daniels spoke from the wall. "That's fair." Several heads turned toward her. Mason looked irritated. "Linda." "No," Daniels said, pushing away from the wall. "Don't Linda me. We all saw the video. We've all heard stories about Calloway. Some of us laughed them off. Some of us said, 'That's just Brent.' Some of us warned rookies not to ride with him if they didn't want complaints. That means we knew enough." The room absorbed that like a blow. Officer Ramirez, invited because he had secured the body cam evidence, spoke quietly from the back. "I heard things." Maya turned toward him. "What kind of things?" Ramirez looked at the older supervisors, then back at Maya. "Jokes. Comments after calls. Stuff about certain neighborhoods. I didn't report it." "Why not?" He swallowed. "Because I was new. Because nobody else acted like it mattered. Because I didn't want to be labeled soft." Maya's expression softened, but her voice stayed firm. "Thank you for telling the truth. But understand this. Silence may feel safe in the moment. It becomes expensive later." Ramirez nodded. "Yes, Chief." Maya looked across the room. "That is the cost we are paying today. Not just for what Calloway did this morning. For everything this department allowed before this morning." Captain Pierce finally raised his hand slightly. His voice was rough. "Chief, I need to say something." Maya nodded. Pierce stood. He looked older under the fluorescent lights, his face lined by fatigue and regret. "Some of these complaints came through my chain. I treated them as separate events. I told myself if there wasn't enough evidence, there wasn't enough evidence. I didn't look hard enough at the pattern. That was my failure." The room went completely silent. Maya held his gaze. "Thank you, Captain. That admission will go into the review." Pierce nodded. "It should." Lieutenant Mason looked away. Maya turned back to everyone. "This is how we begin. Not by pretending the public is overreacting. Not by treating the camera as the enemy. Not by waiting for anger to fade. We begin by telling the truth when it costs us something." A phone vibrated somewhere in the room. Nobody reached for it. Maya picked up the damaged book. Officer Calloway thought this book made me look like I was pretending to belong. That is what prejudice does. It turns ordinary things into accusations. A book becomes a costume. A bench becomes trespassing. A question becomes attitude. A citizen becomes a threat. Her voice lowered. "If you remember nothing else tonight, remember this. The people of Westbridge do not need to earn the right to be treated with dignity. They already have it. Our job is not to decide who looks worthy of protection. Our job is to protect them before our opinions get involved. For the first time, the room felt less defensive than wounded. That was progress, though not the comforting kind. Maya set the book back down. Tomorrow morning, supervisors will receive written orders. Training will draft updated guidance on voluntary contacts, consent searches, and citizen recording rights. Internal Affairs will coordinate with the city attorney on the audit. Any supervisor who interferes with witness cooperation, discourages complaints, or retaliates against personnel who report misconduct will answer directly to me. She looked at Mason, then at everyone else. Is that understood? One by one, voices answered. Yes, Chief. Yes, ma'am. Understood. Mason was the last. His answer came stiffly. Understood. Maya nodded. Good. Dismissed. Chairs scraped. Officers stood slowly, some gathering papers, some avoiding eye contact, some walking out with the stunned expression of people who had just realized history was no longer something that happened somewhere else. Sergeant Daniels remained behind. When the room emptied, she approached the table and looked at the damaged book. Your father's? Maya nodded. Yes. I'm sorry. Suami. Daniels glanced toward the door. You know Mason will push back. I know. He has friends. So do the people he ignored. Daniels almost smiled. Fair point. Maya picked up the folder again. I don't need everyone to like me tonight. I need them to understand the ground moved. Daniels opened the door for her. They understand. As Maya stepped into the hallway, she saw officers gathered in small groups, speaking in low voices. The building felt different now, not healed, not clean, but exposed. And exposure, Maya knew, was where healing either began or died. By midnight, Westbridge Police Headquarters had gone quiet in the way old buildings do when they are holding too much truth. The command meeting was over. The reporters had thinned outside City Hall. The mayor had gone home under the protection of 2 tired aides and 1 patrol unit. Most of the city had turned off the evening news, but the video from Maple Grove Park kept moving through phones on nightstands and kitchen counters, traveling from one uneasy conversation to the next. Inside headquarters, Maya Williams sat alone in the chief's office. It was her office now, though it did not feel like hers. The shelves still held Acting Chief Harlan's old law enforcement manuals, a framed photograph from a police charity golf tournament, and a retirement plaque someone had ordered too early. A cardboard box sat near the wall, half filled with his belongings. The room smelled faintly of coffee, paper, and furniture polish. Maya had not moved anything. Not yet. The damaged book lay on the desk in front of her. Beside it was the folder containing Officer Brent Calloway's complaint history. She had read every page twice. She had marked dates, names, supervisors, outcomes, missing witness statements, and repeated phrases that appeared in Calloway's reports like a script. Subject became argumentative. Subject refused basic cooperation. Officer detected furtive movement. Subject matched general description. No further action recommended. Each phrase was clean enough to survive review and vague enough to bury a person's pain. Maya leaned back in the chair and rubbed her eyes. Her mother had texted 3 times asking whether she had eaten dinner. Maya had not answered the last one because she did not want to lie. There was a sandwich on the desk from Laura Bennett, turkey on wheat with mustard, still wrapped in paper. She had taken 2 bites hours ago and forgotten the rest. A knock came at the door. Maya looked up. Come in. Sergeant Linda Daniels stepped inside holding 2 paper cups from the vending machine. Coffee. It's terrible, but it's hot. At this hour, those are the only standards left. Daniels placed 1 cup on the desk and sat only after Maya nodded. She looked as tired as Maya felt, but her uniform was still crisp, her posture still careful. You should go home, Chief. So should you. I'm old. I don't sleep much anyway. Maya smiled faintly. That's supposed to comfort me? No, just establishing seniority and suffering. Maya took the coffee. It was burnt and bitter. She drank it anyway. Daniels looked at the complaint folder. Bad? Worse because it's familiar. That's the word I was afraid of. Maya opened the folder to a page near the middle. In 2020, Calloway stopped a man named Terrence Brooks outside a pharmacy. Said he was standing too close to the entrance. Brooks had just picked up heart medication for his wife. Calloway searched him, found nothing, wrote that Brooks was evasive and verbally hostile. Daniel's face tightened. I remember that one. Maya looked at her. Do you? Yes. What do you remember? Daniel sighed, then set her coffee down untouched. I remember Calloway joking about it in the break room. Said the guy looked like he was about to rob the place. A couple people laughed. I didn't. Did you report it? No. Maya waited. Daniels did not look away. I told myself there was no point because the complaint had already gone nowhere. I told myself he'd retire eventually, or mess up badly enough that nobody could ignore it. And today he did. Yes. That's a dangerous standard, Sergeant. I know. The honesty sat between them, uncomfortable but useful. Maya closed the folder. I'm not looking for perfect people. I'm looking for people who can tell the truth before a camera forces them to. Daniels nodded slowly. Then start with the supervisors. I intend to. That's where the pushback will come from. Mason? Him. Others. Some retired folks too. They'll say you're destroying morale. They'll say you're anti-police. They'll say you don't understand the street because you haven't sat in this chair long enough. Maya looked around the office. This chair does not teach morality. No, ma'am, but it gives cowards a place to hide behind tradition. Maya studied her for a moment. You always talk like this after midnight? Only when the coffee's bad. A phone rang from the desk. The internal line. Maya answered. Chief William. The desk sergeant's voice came through tense and low. Chief, Officer Calloway is in the lobby. Maya's hand stilled around the receiver. Daniels straightened. Maya kept her voice calm. Is he alone? No, ma'am. His union representative is with him. He says he needs to retrieve personal property from his locker. Is he under orders not to enter restricted areas? Yes, Chief. Do not let him pass the lobby. I'm coming down. Daniels was already standing. Maya placed the receiver back in its cradle. He was told not to come in tonight. Of course he was, Daniels said. That's why he came. The lobby was nearly empty when Maya and Daniels stepped out of the elevator. Only the desk sergeant, one night shift officer, Calloway, and a heavy-set man in a blue windbreaker stood near the front counter. The windbreaker had the Police Association logo stitched on the chest. The man wearing it, Mike Rourke, was the kind of union representative who smiled like he was doing you a favor while deciding where to place the knife. Calloway looked different without his badge and gun. The uniform remained, but it seemed too large now. His face was flushed, eyes bloodshot, hair slightly disordered. Anger had kept him upright all day, but fear had hollowed him out beneath it. Rourke spoke first. Chief William, congratulations on the promotion. Maya did not return the smile. This is not the time for that. No disrespect intended. Then don't offer any. His smile thinned. Calloway stepped forward. Daniels moved half a step with him, enough to remind him that he was not in control here. I need my things, Calloway said. My locker has personal property. You were instructed not to enter restricted areas during the administrative investigation, Maya said. I'm not trying to sneak around. Mike's here. I just need my stuff. Rourke lifted a hand. Chief, we're simply trying to avoid unnecessary embarrassment. Officer Calloway has toiletries, spare clothes, family photos. There's no reason to make this punitive. Maya looked at Calloway. Your personal property will be inventoried by a supervisor and returned to you. Calloway laughed under his breath. Inventoried? Like I'm a criminal? No, Maya said. Like you are the subject of an active investigation involving evidence preservation. His face darkened. You love this, don't you? Daniel's voice cut in. Careful. Calloway ignored her. His eyes stayed on Maya. You got your ceremony. You got your speech. You got everyone clapping for you. Now you're going to act like you're fair while you bury me. Maya held his stare. You buried yourself when you put your hands on my property and your prejudice on display. Rourke stepped between them slightly. Chief, my client is under extreme stress. Then advise him to stop talking. Rourke's jaw tightened. Calloway pointed toward the hallway. I gave 12 years to this department. And how many citizens gave their dignity to your bad days? Maya asked. The lobby went silent. Calloway blinked. For a second, his anger faltered. Then he grabbed onto it again. You don't know the street. I know what I saw in that park. You saw what you wanted to see. Maya stepped closer, not enough to threaten, only enough to end the performance. No. I saw what you believed you could do to someone you thought had no power. That is the whole case against you. Officer Calloway. The title struck him like a slap. because it was no longer attached to a badge on his chest. Rourke cleared his throat. We will be filing a grievance over the suspension, the public removal of his badge, and the chief's prejudicial statements during the ceremony. You are entitled to file, Maya said. We'll also argue conflict of interest. You were personally involved. That's why an outside agency is reviewing the case. Rourke paused, annoyed that the answer was already prepared. Maya turned to the desk sergeant. Sergeant McNeil, have Lieutenant Morris and Sergeant Daniels inventory Officer Calloway's locker tonight. Personal property only. Evidence or department issued items are logged and retained. Yes, Chief. Calloway's voice dropped. You can't keep me out of my own locker. Maya looked at him. Watch me follow policy. For a moment, Maya thought he might lose control completely. His hands curled, then opened. His breathing grew heavy. Daniels shifted her weight again. Ready. But Rourke touched his arm. Brent, not here. That quiet warning did what reason had not. Calloway looked around and finally seemed to notice the lobby camera above the front desk. Another camera. Another witness. He stepped back. This isn't over, he said. No, Maya replied. It's finally beginning. Rourke guided him toward the doors. Calloway pushed through them into the night without looking back. When they were gone, the desk sergeant exhaled. The night shift officer looked down at his shoes. Daniels turned to Maya. He came here hoping you'd overreact. I know. You didn't. I know that too. But Maya felt the tremor in her chest, now that the confrontation was over. She had faced him in the park as a citizen. She had faced him in headquarters as his chief. In both places, he had wanted to drag her into anger so he could call it proof. She would not give him that gift. Upstairs, Maya stood beside Daniels while Calloway's locker was opened. Inside were spare boots, deodorant, an extra uniform shirt, a framed photo of his wife and teenage son, a half-empty tin of breath mints, 3 old commendation letters, and a small notebook tucked behind a rain jacket. Lieutenant Morris opened the notebook with gloved hands. Her face changed. What is it? Maya asked. Morris turned the notebook so Maya could see. Names, dates, descriptions, not official notes, not case numbers, personal remarks, crude labels, neighborhood nicknames, comments about people he had stopped, mocked, remembered. One line near the bottom made Maya's stomach tighten. Maple Grove bench girl, attitude, possible activist. Daniels whispered. He wrote that before the badge fell. Maya stared at the page. The notebook changed everything. It suggested the park encounter had not been a sudden misunderstanding. It was part of how Calloway cataloged people. Not as citizens, as targets. Maya stepped back slowly. Bag it, she said. Morris nodded. Evidence hold? Yes, and notify the outside investigators first thing. Daniels looked at Maya. You all right? Maya looked at the notebook, then at the old commendation letters lying beside it. No, she said, but I'm clear. Downstairs, Calloway had walked out believing the night had ended with a threat. He had no idea that in his own locker, he had left behind the thing that might finish him. The notebook was placed inside a clear evidence bag at 12:47 a.m. Maya William watched Lieutenant Angela Morris seal it, initial the strip, and write the time with a black marker. The plastic reflected the fluorescent light, making the small pages inside look strangely distant, as if they belonged to another decade instead of a locker 10 feet away. But the words were fresh enough to cut. Maple Grove bench girl, attitude, possible activist. Maya read that line once more before Morris turned the bag away. Sergeant Daniels stood beside her, arms folded, face hard. He was building stories before he even had facts. Maya nodded. That's how bias survives. It writes the ending first. Morris placed the bag on the evidence cart. Chief, there are at least 40 names in here. Some have dates. Some have addresses. Some have notes about race, clothing, vehicles, who they were with. It's not an official field notebook. No, Maya said. It's personal. That may make it worse, Daniels said. It does. A young evidence technician entered with a camera and began photographing the locker exactly as it had been found. Boots, uniform shirt, breath mints, family photo, commendation letters, notebook location, nothing touched twice, nothing assumed harmless. Maya had insisted on that. If the department was going to expose misconduct, It would do so cleanly. Calloway would not be allowed to escape through sloppy procedure. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was not a reporter, not her mother, not the mayor. It was Denise Caldwell, the city attorney. Maya answered, "Tell me you're asleep." Denise's voice was dry. "At my age, sleep is a rumor. Sergeant Daniels notified me about the notebook." She was right too. Does it contain protected information? Possibly. Names, dates, addresses, descriptions. Some appear tied to stops. Then lock it down. Limit access. Outside investigators need it first thing. I'll contact the Attorney General's Civil Rights Unit in the morning. Maya looked through the open locker at the framed photograph of Calloway's wife and son. In the picture, Calloway stood at a lakeside barbecue with one arm around his family, smiling like a man certain of his place in the world. It was unsettling how ordinary cruelty could look when it went home. "Denise," Maya said, "could this move beyond administrative discipline?" A pause. "Depending on what the notebook connects to, yes. Pattern evidence, unlawful stops, possible civil rights issues. But don't get ahead of the facts." "I won't. You also need to prepare for backlash. If his attorney gets wind of this, they'll claim the department is searching for a reason to justify a political firing. We found the notebook during an authorized inventory after he requested property." "Good. Document that sentence exactly." "I will." Denise softened slightly. "Maya, go home after this." Maya almost laughed. Everyone kept telling her to go home as if home were not just another room where the same thoughts would follow her. "Soon," she said. "You chiefs all lie the same way." The call ended. Morris finished logging the item and looked up. "Chief, do you want me to start cross-checking the names tonight?" "No. Secure the notebook. Get rest if you can. Tomorrow we cross-check with stops, complaints, body cam, and dispatch logs." Morris hesitated. "Respectfully, I won't sleep." "Then lie down and fail at sleeping. That's still better than making mistakes at 2 in the morning." A tired smile passed through Morris's face. "Yes, Chief." Daniels walked with Maya back toward the elevator. The hallway was nearly empty now. Somewhere deeper in the building, a printer hummed. A vending machine rattled and dropped a can for someone on night shift. The ordinary sounds of a department continued around them, indifferent to the fact that everything had changed. At the elevator, Daniels pressed the button. "You know what bothers me most?" Maya looked at her. "Only one thing?" Daniels did not smile. "That notebook was in his locker because he wasn't afraid anyone would ever look." The elevator doors opened. Maya stepped inside. "Then we change what people are afraid of." By 8 the next morning, Westbridge was no longer debating whether Officer Brent Calloway had gone too far. It was debating how many people had known. The local news led with the live stream. National morning shows picked up the badge moment. Commentators argued over policing, race, public accountability, and whether Maya Williams' calm had saved the city from something uglier. But inside police headquarters, the viral video was no longer the center of the investigation. The notebook was. Maya stood in the records division with Detective Morris, Sergeant Daniels, Denise Caldwell, and 2 investigators from the State Attorney General's Civil Rights Unit. One was Special Investigator Thomas Avery, a tall black man in his 50s with a careful voice and silver glasses. The other was Maria Sanchez, a former prosecutor who spoke little but missed nothing. Avery held a copy of the notebook inventory. "We'll take custody of the original after chain of custody transfer. Your team can work from scanned copies." Maya nodded. "Agreed." Sanchez looked at Maya over the top of her file. "Chief, because you are personally involved in the originating incident, you understand our review may include department decisions made before your appointment, during your appointment, and after your appointment. I expect it to. And if we find failures above Calloway, then follow them." Captain Pierce, standing near the back of the room, lowered his eyes. He had attended at Maya's request. Not as punishment. As necessity. If supervisors were part of the failure, supervisors needed to stand close enough to hear the truth forming. Avery turned to the records clerk. "Let's begin with the names that match formal complaints." Within 30 minutes, the first match appeared. Terrence Brooks, the same man Maya had read about the night before. Stopped outside a pharmacy. Heart medication in his pocket. Report described him as evasive. Notebook entry described him differently. T. Brooks, pharmacy, mouthy, wife meds excuse, watch list. Maya felt the room shift. Denise whispered, "Watch list." Morris typed quickly. "No official watch list under that name in departmental systems." Sanchez wrote something down. "So a personal watch list." Second match, Evan Miller, not related to Calloway, 19 at the time of contact. Library stop. Complaint alleged backpack search and racial comments. Notebook entry. Library kids. One tall black male. Thinks he's smart. Break attitude early. Pierce exhaled sharply. Maya looked at him. "Captain?" He shook his head. "I've seen enough already." "No," Maya said. "You haven't. None of us have." They continued. By lunch, 9 names from the notebook matched old complaints. 6 more matched traffic stops with no complaint but unusual escalation. 2 matched incidents where body camera footage had been categorized as routine and never reviewed by command. 1 stop involved a 70-year-old church deacon pulled over after evening service because Calloway claimed the license plate light was dim. The notebook entry read, "Deacon Act. Nice suit. Bad area. Don't buy it." Sergeant Daniels turned away from the screen for a moment. Maya noticed. "Take a minute if you need it." Daniels shook her head. "No. I need to see it." That answer mattered. At 1:30 p.m., they reviewed Calloway's body camera from a 2021 stop involving Denise Harper's son. The video showed a young black man sitting handcuffed on a curb, still wearing hospital scrubs under his jacket. His voice shook as he asked, "Officer, can you please tell me what I did?" Calloway's answer came through cleanly. "You people always have questions." No one spoke for several seconds. Maya's hands folded slowly in front of her. There it was again. Not one bad day. Not one misunderstanding. A vocabulary of contempt repeated until it felt normal to the man saying it. Avery stopped the video. "Chief William, we will likely recommend immediate expansion of this inquiry." "Do it." Denise looked at Maya. "We also need to consider notifying affected citizens." "Yes." Pierce shifted. "That could create liability." Maya turned to him. "Captain, liability was created when the harm happened. Notification only ends the hiding." He nodded, pained but accepting. By late afternoon, the department issued its second official statement. It was short, lawful, and deliberately plain. Officer Brent Calloway remained suspended. An outside investigation had expanded to include prior incidents. The department would preserve evidence, contact affected citizens where appropriate, and cooperate fully with civil rights investigators. The union responded within 20 minutes. Political witch hunt, violation of officer rights, dangerous anti-police climate. This time, the statement did not land the way they hoped. Too many people had seen too much. Too many old stories were now matching the new one. Public anger had moved from shock to memory, and memory was harder to dismiss. At 5:12 p.m., Maya received a call from Mayor Ross. "Maya," the mayor said, "the council is nervous." "They should be. They want reassurance." "They want reassurance or insulation?" A long pause. "Both." Maya looked through her office window into the bullpen. Officers moved more quietly than usual. Some avoided her gaze. Others nodded with new seriousness. Change had entered the building, but so had fear. "Tell the council they will get transparency," Maya said. "If they need comfort, they should call their pastors." Mayor Ross sighed. "You are making me earn my salary. That makes 2 of us." After the call, Maya opened the small drawer in the chief's desk and placed her father's damaged book inside for safekeeping. She paused before closing it. The pages were still warped. The stain would never fully come out. Maybe that was right. Some evidence should remain visible. A knock came at the door. "Come in." Captain Pierce entered. He held a single sheet of paper. His expression was grave. "What is it?" Maya asked. "Letter of resignation." Maya looked at the page, then at him. "Yours?" "No." He placed it on her desk. "Lieutenant Mason." Maya read the first line. Carl Mason was resigning effective immediately, citing loss of confidence in department leadership and an increasingly hostile environment for officers. She set it down. Pierce said, "He's not leaving quietly. He's already talking to the union." Maya leaned back. "Did he supervise Calloway?" "For 3 years. Then his resignation does not end his involvement." "I figured you'd say that." "Good." Pierce remained standing. Chief, there may be more. Resignations? Resistance. Maya looked past him toward the bullpen, toward the people who had sworn to protect a city that was now watching them with wounded eyes. Then let it come, she said. Rot always protests when the floorboards get pulled up. Pierce gave a small, tired nod and left. Maya sat alone again, but not in silence. Outside her office, phones rang, keyboards clicked, voices murmured, files opened, printers ran. The machinery of accountability had finally begun to move. And somewhere in Westbridge, Brent Calloway was learning that suspension had only been the first door closing. By the third morning, Westbridge had stopped asking whether the department would change and started asking how much truth the city could bear at once. Maya Williams stood in front of the old community center on Parker Avenue, watching volunteers carry folding chairs through the double doors. The building had once been a grocery store, then a church annex, then an after-school tutoring space that closed when funding dried up. Its brick walls were faded, the parking lot cracked, the sign out front missing 2 letters. But by noon, it would be filled with residents who had waited years for someone in authority to ask what had happened to them and stay long enough to hear the answer. Laura Bennett stood beside Maya with a clipboard in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other. We have pastors, retired teachers, veterans, business owners, 2 council members, 3 civil rights attorneys, and every local station in the city asking to come inside. Residents first, Maya said. That's what I told them. And press? Outside until after the listening session. No cameras inside unless a speaker requests it. Maya nodded. Good. Laura looked at her carefully. You slept? Some. That means no. It means some. Laura gave her the tired look of a woman too experienced to waste time arguing with another tired woman. Your mother called me. Maya turned. She did what? She said if I had any influence over you, I should use it to make sure you eat something besides coffee and responsibility. Despite everything, Maya smiled. She's forming alliances now. She sounded formidable. She is. A black sedan pulled into the lot. Mayor Ross stepped out, followed by Denise Caldwell and Special Investigator Avery from the Attorney General's office. Behind them, Captain Pierce arrived in an unmarked city vehicle. His face was drawn, but he had shown up. That mattered. Not because showing up erased past failure, but because absence would have said the old walls were still standing. Sergeant Daniels came last, parking her cruiser near the side entrance. She carried a box of documents and wore the expression of someone who expected the day to hurt. Morning, Chief, Daniels said. Morning, Sergeant. Daniels looked at the building. You sure about doing this in public? No, Maya said. I'm sure about why we have to. Inside, the main hall smelled of floor wax, old wood, and coffee brewing in metal urns. Volunteers had set up rows of chairs facing a simple table with 5 microphones. No flags behind the speakers. No city seal on a backdrop. Maya had refused anything that made the session look like a campaign event. People were not coming to be managed. They were coming to be believed. By noon, every chair was filled. Older black residents sat beside white retirees who looked uneasy but present. A Latino father held his teenage son's shoulder. Church women fanned themselves with folded programs. A group of young officers stood in the back, not in uniform at Maya's request, but in plain clothes, listening as citizens rather than symbols. Reporters waited outside the glass doors, cameras pointed toward the entrance, catching only shadows and movement. Maya stepped to the front. The room quieted. My name is Maya William, she began. I am the Chief of Police for Westbridge. I am not here today to make a speech. I am here to listen. Some of you filed complaints and were ignored. Some of you never filed because you did not believe anyone would care. Some of you are here for your children, your husbands, your brothers, your parents, or your younger selves. I want you to know this before we begin. Dignity delayed is not dignity denied forever. But we cannot repair what we refuse to hear. She sat down. The first speaker was Denise Harper. She walked slowly to the microphone, carrying a folded piece of paper she never opened. She was dressed in a blue church suit, her gray hair pinned neatly back. Her hands trembled, but her voice did not. My son's name is Marcus, she said. Not subject, not male-matching description. His name is Marcus Harper. He was coming home from work in hospital scrubs when Officer Calloway stopped him. My neighbors saw my son sitting on a curb in handcuffs like a criminal. Nobody apologized. Nobody explained. My son still works at that hospital. He still helps people breathe when their lungs are failing, but he will not drive past that pharmacy anymore. Maya listened without looking down. Denise Harper turned toward her. Chief William, I don't need revenge. I'm too old for that. I need the city to stop calling our pain a misunderstanding. Maya leaned toward her microphone. Mrs. Harper, you have my word. We will not use that word for what happened to your son. The room stayed silent, but something shifted. The next speaker was James Ellis, the retired postal worker, then a teacher named Ruth Donnelly, who said she had witnessed Calloway mock 2 teenagers outside the library and had convinced herself reporting it would only make things worse. Then a white business owner from downtown, Frank Albright, who admitted he had once called police on suspicious youth near his store, and now understood he had helped feed the very machine he feared. I thought I was protecting my shop, Frank said, voice cracking. Maybe I was protecting my comfort. That sentence made several people lower their eyes. Maya did not rescue him from the discomfort. Some discomfort was honest. Some discomfort was overdue. For nearly 3 hours, people spoke. Some cried, some shook with anger. Some were so calm that their stories sounded rehearsed by years of telling them to themselves in the dark. Sergeant Daniels took notes until her hand cramped. Captain Pierce sat with his head bowed, then finally lifted it when a man described a complaint Pierce had signed off as inconclusive in 2018. When the man finished, Pierce stood. The room turned toward him. Maya did not stop him. Pierce walked to the microphone. My name is Howard Pierce. I am a captain with the Westbridge Police Department. Some of the complaints discussed today passed through my chain of command. I told myself the evidence was insufficient. I told myself I was following policy. I did not ask why the same kind of story kept coming back with different names attached. His voice roughened. That failure is mine. I cannot undo it. I can only submit myself to the review and cooperate fully. And to those I failed, I am sorry. No applause followed. That was right. Apologies were not performances. They were debts acknowledged. Maya watched the faces in the room. Some softened, some did not. Both responses were fair. When the final speaker finished, Maya returned to the microphone. I have heard enough today to know that Officer Calloway's conduct was not isolated, she said. I have also heard enough to know that discipline alone will not repair this. So here is what happens next. People sat straighter. First, every complaint connected to Officer Calloway will be reopened for review by the outside investigators. Second, this department will create a civilian review panel with real access to complaint data, not summaries designed to hide the truth. Third, consent search policy will be rewritten. If consent is requested, it must be recorded clearly. If consent is refused, that refusal will not be treated as suspicion. Fourth, every officer will receive renewed training on voluntary encounters, racial bias, and the right of citizens to record police in public. A murmur moved through the room. Maya continued. Fifth, supervisors who ignored patterns will be reviewed. Rank will not be a shield. Seniority will not be a hiding place. Friendship will not be policy. Captain Pierce did not look away. And finally, Maya said, we will hold these listening sessions every quarter, whether the cameras are here or not. Trust cannot be rebuilt by a statement. It must be rebuilt by showing up after the headlines leave. An older man in the front row raised his hand. Maya nodded. Yes, sir. He stood slowly, leaning on a cane. Chief, do you really believe this department can change? The question hung over the room. Maya looked at the officers in the back. She looked at the residents in the chairs. She looked at the mothers, veterans, teachers, store owners, widows, and young people whose faces carried both hope and doubt. I believe people can change when the cost of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of doing right, she said. And as of today, in Westbridge, staying the same will cost too much. For the first time that afternoon, the room applauded, not loudly, not like the ceremony at City Hall. This applause was slower, heavier, less certain, but more real. After the session, Maya stepped outside into the late afternoon sun. Reporters surged forward, shouting questions, but she raised one hand and waited until they quieted. We listened today, she said. Now we work. A reporter called, Chief William, what is your message to officers who feel attacked? Maya answered without hesitation. If accountability feels like an attack, ask yourself what you were defending. Behind her, the community center doors opened and residents began filing out. Denise Harper paused on the steps. When Maya turned, the older woman reached for her hand. "My Marcus might come next time," she said. Maya held her hand gently. "I'd be honored to meet him." Mrs. Harper nodded, then walked away with her shoulders a little less bent than when she had arrived. Maya watched her go. 3 days earlier, she had been ordered to prove she belonged on a park bench. Now an entire city was beginning, painfully and imperfectly, to prove that justice belonged to everyone. 1 week after the listening session, Maya William returned to Maple Grove Park alone. The city had not healed in a week. No honest person would have claimed that. Officer Brent Calloway was still suspended, now facing an expanded investigation by the Attorney General's Civil Rights Unit. Lieutenant Carl Mason's resignation had not protected him from review. Captain Pierce had turned over every file connected to Calloway's old complaints, including the ones that made him look careless, passive, and at times willfully blind. The union continued issuing statements about due process and officer morale, but their words had begun to sound smaller against the voices of citizens who were finally being heard. Westbridge was still angry, but anger had changed shape. It was no longer just outrage moving across screens. It had become meetings, affidavits, reopened complaints, policy drafts, training orders, evidence logs, and long phone calls with people who had once believed nobody in power would ever call them back. It had become Denise Harper bringing her son Marcus to headquarters, where he sat across from Maya in a conference room and told his story without lowering his eyes. It had become Sergeant Daniels standing in front of patrol officers and saying, "A refused consent search is not disrespect. Learn the difference or leave the job." It had become Officer Ramirez reporting an older officer for telling a joke he would have laughed at a year earlier. That was not healing. Not yet. But it was movement. Maya walked along the same path where the crowd had gathered that morning. The fountain still whispered over stone. The benches were still painted green. Children still rode scooters badly and joyfully. Older couples still moved at the pace of people who had learned not to hurry unless life gave them a reason. Her damaged book was tucked beneath her arm. She reached the stone bench and stopped. For a moment, she saw it all again. Calloway's hand snatching the book. The coffee spilling. The badge falling. The crowd holding its breath. The small red glow of her phone recording what too many people had spent years denying. Maya sat down. The bench was warm from the afternoon sun. She opened the book carefully. The pages had dried unevenly, curled at the corners, stained brown near the bottom. She had thought about replacing it, but that felt wrong. A clean copy would have been easier to hold, easier to look at, easier to explain. This one carried the mark of what had happened. It reminded her that some damage should not be hidden just because it made people uncomfortable. She found the page where Calloway had interrupted her. The sentence was still readable. That made her smile faintly. A voice behind her said, "Are you really the police chief?" Maya looked up. A little black girl stood a few feet away, no older than 8, wearing pink sneakers and holding a library book against her chest. Her grandmother stood behind her, one hand resting gently on the child's shoulder. Maya recognized them from the crowd outside City Hall. The grandmother had not spoken to the reporters. She had simply watched, the way many older people watched when they were deciding whether hope was safe. Maya closed the book halfway. "Yes, I am." The girl's eyes moved to the badge on Maya's belt, then back to her face. "My grandma said that man was mean to you." Maya looked at the grandmother, who gave a small, apologetic nod. "He was," Maya said. The girl frowned. "Were you scared?" It was the kind of question adults often ruined by answering too quickly. Maya took her time. "Yes," she said. "A little." The girl seemed surprised. "But you looked calm." "My father taught me that being calm doesn't mean you aren't afraid. Sometimes it means you know fear is watching, and you refuse to let it make your choices." The grandmother's eyes softened. The girl thought about that. "Did he get in trouble?" "He is being held accountable." "What does that mean?" Maya looked out across the park. A week ago, she might have chosen a simpler answer. Something neat. Something satisfying. He lost his badge. He got punished. Bad men don't win. But children deserve truth that did not turn justice into a fairy tale. "It means people are looking carefully at what he did," Maya said. "And not just what he did to me. What he may have done to other people too. If he broke rules, If he hurt people, there will be consequences. The girl nodded slowly, though Maya was not sure how much she understood. Then the girl held up her book. I like reading in the park too. Maya smiled. Then you should read here whenever you want. What if somebody says I don't belong? The question struck deeper than the child knew. Maya leaned forward slightly. Then you remember this. A public bench does not belong more to one person than another. A park does not belong only to people who look a certain way, and no one gets to decide your worth because they don't understand your presence. The grandmother whispered, Amen. The girl stepped closer. Can I sit? Maya moved the book from beside her. Of course. The girl climbed onto the bench, leaving a careful space between them, and opened her library book with the seriousness of someone entering a sacred place. Her grandmother sat on the next bench over, close enough to watch, far enough to let the moment breathe. For a while, Maya and the child read in silence. That silence felt different from the one a week before. It was not tense, not fearful. It was the silence of ordinary life returning, not because injustice had vanished, but because someone had refused to let injustice have the last word. After a few minutes, Maya's phone buzzed. A message from Laura Bennett appeared. Final council vote passed. Civilian review panel approved unanimously. Even Albright voted yes. Don't faint. Maya typed back. I'm sitting down, so I'm safe. Another message came immediately. Where are you? Maya looked at the fountain, the trees, the child reading beside her. The bench. Laura replied after a pause. Of course you are. Maya placed the phone away. Across the park, a patrol car rolled slowly along the street. For a moment, the old reflex moved through the air. People looked up. Conversations softened. The grandmother's hand tightened slightly around the strap of her purse. Maya noticed. So did the officer driving. The cruiser stopped at the curb. A young woman officer stepped out, not rushed, not swaggering, not performing. She removed her sunglasses before approaching the park entrance. Maya recognized her as Officer Elena Brooks, a recent academy graduate assigned to day shift. Officer Brooks saw Maya and gave a respectful nod, then turned toward the older Navy veteran sitting near the pond. Good afternoon, Mr. Ellis, Brooks called. How's the knee today? The old man waved a hand. Still arguing with the rest of me. Brooks smiled. Tell it to behave. Mrs. Harper asked me to remind you about the community meeting Thursday. I'll be there. The patrol car drove away a few minutes later. No one had been ordered to move. No one had been asked to prove they belonged. No one had been made smaller so a badge could feel bigger. The grandmother let out a breath she may not have known she was holding. Maya heard it. That, she thought, was the work. Not speeches, not headlines, not applause in council chambers. The work was turning a city's held breath back into breathing. The little girl looked up from her book. Chief Maya? Yes? Can girls be police chiefs and mayors? Maya smiled. Yes. And more than that? Much more. The girl seemed satisfied and returned to her page. Maya looked down at her own book, at the stain that would never fully disappear, and thought of her father. She wondered what he would say if he could see her now, sitting on a public bench, wearing the badge he had taught her to respect, beside a child who had asked whether she belonged to the future. Maybe he would not say anything. Maybe he would just sit beside her for a while. The wind moved through the trees and lifted the corner of a page. Maya pressed it down gently. Justice, she had learned, was not a single thunderclap. It was a door opened and kept open. It was a complaint believed before a video went viral. It was an officer corrected before cruelty became habit. It was a mother receiving a phone call years too late and still finding the strength to answer. It was a child reading in a park without fear becoming the background music of her life. Maya looked across Maple Grove Park, no longer at the place where a man had tried to humiliate her, but at the place where the city had been forced to see itself. Then she opened her book to the next page. Beside her, the little girl did the same, and together, under the afternoon light, they kept reading. The lesson of Maya Williams' story is that true justice does not depend on power, rank, or public attention. A person should not have to be important, famous, or connected to be treated with dignity. Officer Calloway's mistake was not simply that he harassed the wrong woman. It was that he believed anyone without visible power could be humiliated without consequence. Maya's calm strength reminds us that a badge is not a weapon for pride, but a promise to serve. And when truth is finally brought into the light, it does more than punish one person. It can force an entire system to change. Thank you for staying with this story until the very end. If it touched your heart, I would truly love to hear your thoughts on the storytelling, the emotional pacing, or whatever stayed with you after listening. Every comment you share helps make the next stories more honest, moving, and meaningful. And if you have a powerful or meaningful story of your own, please do not hesitate to send it to the channel. It may become the next story to touch and inspire thousands of others. This video is a work of fiction created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. All characters, events, and situations are not real and do not represent any actual people or true stories. The content is intended for storytelling and emotional illustration only.